Good morning. Let me, at the media, okay, are you done with your settings and everything? Okay. So, my name is Emmanuel Jr., the Chief Crusader Against Corruption in Ghana, with a civil society organization by name Crusaders Against Corruption in Ghana. And almost all the speakers who are going to talk are members, either board members, or they play a significant role in this organization. Let me first apologize for the late start. I've done that earlier on with my colleague in the media space, but I want to do the same with all of us, particularly our speakers. It will interest you to know that Mr. Domlevo has to cut his trip short from Malawi just to come and be part of us today. He was scheduled to return to Ghana, I think, over the weekend or so, but he needed to cut it short. So he arrived yesterday and moved straight to this place today. And Professor Jampo, when we spoke, he said, I literally have to collapse my 3 days of lectures just to be here. And so he also needed to do that to be here. And this morning he has joined us here. And our great hosts, two hosts, Professor Eduje Tagoans, I mean, very perfect and great individual. We want to acknowledge you. Let me say that corruption is one of the most dangerous diseases affecting us as a country, whether we like it or not. And it is dangerously affecting us because the repercussion, it goes beyond the current generation. So if you commit any act of corruption today, the effect of it is not just limited to you and I, but to even our unborn generation. They are affected. And that is why issues of corruption must be taken seriously in this country. You look at the number or the figures, the amount of money that goes into people's pockets through corruption, misappropriation, and all that you can think of. And the question that comes into mind is that, wouldn't we be better off as a country if we are even able to fight corruption, just reducing corruption by 20 to 30% in this country? There wouldn't be any need for us to go to IMF. Now, if you have the paper or the program outline, when you flip behind it, you will see a list of scandals, examples of corruption. And the list is endless. Because if I should give each and every one of us an opportunity, you'll be able to mention one or two, particularly in this Fourth Republic. And so it is very important for us. If over the past years we've been relying on our leaders to fight corruption, and they are not helping us, it is very important for us to change the model, to change the strategy, and say that this time we want to involve the citizens. Because it is the citizens that have the power. And most often we forget or we underestimate the power that we have as citizens. And so if the leaders are neglecting us, it is time for us to sensitize the citizens so that collectively we will demand and tell the leaders what they need to do. And that is why Crusaders Against Corruption, over the past months, we've been engaging in regional conferences. We started in Greater Accra, we did Eastern region, we are in Ashanti region today. From this place, we are going to Tamale, the Northern region. And we'll do all the other regions with the hope and the intention that we will create some awakening in the minds and in the eyes and the life of the citizens, so that collectively we'll be able to fight corruption. We should never see corruption as a political issue. Corruption is a national disaster and it's a national issue. Rawlinson's era, we recorded some. Kufuor's era, we recorded some. Atamil's era, we recorded some. John Mahama's era, we recorded some. this era, it is even worse. So it tells us that it goes beyond partisanship. And that's why today, devoid of partisan colors, we want to discuss the issues. And so the theme is the scarface of corruption in Ghana. We are looking at the threats that face us or await us. It is very important. The threat that awaits us. When we know the threat, we'll be able to get the right information as to how to take care of it. Do you agree with me? And that is why it is important for us to have this conversation. Without much ado, because we have a very limited time. Okay. I'm going to be very brief. I'm so sorry, but the media tells me that they didn't capture. They are doing live streaming. So they want us to go over it again. So I'm going to be very... I'll summarize what I said earlier on. So, are we okay now? Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Jr., the Chief Crusader for Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana. And we are here today to have a citizens' conversation on matters of corruption. Issues of corruption, as I keep saying, goes beyond partisan colors. And the reason is that the effect of corruption transcends, it goes beyond generation. So if any of us engages in corruption or corrupt practices today, the repercussion goes beyond today. And it is going to even affect our unborn generation. And that is why it is very important, anytime we get opportunity to talk about matters of corruption, all of us will be so much interested in it. This very moment, I'm so happy because the media, we have a heavy presence of the media. And for me, that's the most important thing. Because it is the media that is going to take the information to the public. We started this engagement about 2 or 3 months ago. We are doing regional conventions. We started in Greater Accra. We did Eastern region. Today we are in Ashanti region, Kumasi. From here, we'll be going to Tamale in the Northern region. And then from Tamale, we'll go to the other regions. We are going to cover all the regions. And the intention is very simple. Over the past period, we've led the fight against corruption to our leaders, our political leaders. But if you look at the records, it suggests clearly that political leaders have failed us in the fight against corruption. And that is why we have decided to use a different approach. And the approach is that we want to involve the citizens, because power belongs to the citizens. And if the citizens are awakened, and we decide to say that enough is enough, the leaders will have no option than to do what is right. And that's why we've been engaging in these regional conferences. Today we are here. If you look, you take a flip, you will see the various scandals that has been recorded. And clearly so, if we give the opportunity to each and every one of us, we'll be able to even add on. Because it is endless. But to what end are we going to sit and allow this to continue? I don't think it is appropriate for us to allow this to continue, knowing very well that it will affect our next generation. We need to fight for our next generation, even if we are not fighting for ourselves. We need to fight for our next generation. And that's the main reason why the spirit that is driving our program and our various conferences. We have our speakers here, and because we are not starting on time, we will just move straight to it so that we will be able to make up for the time that we have lost. We have with us Professor Jampu. All of us know Professor Jampu. We also have with us Dr. Lord Goans. All of us know Dr. Lord Goans. We have with us Professor Samuel Edu Jemfi, our host. Then we also have with us Mr. Daniel Yadomlevo, who obviously needs no introduction, just like all the other speakers. We are having these individuals to take us through some specific topic. And when we are done, we'll have a public engagement. And after the public engagement, we'll call it a day. Is it a good plan? It's a good plan. Very well. So without wasting much time, please help me welcome Professor Jampo, who is going to discuss with us a topic or the theme, polarized security institutions in line with corruption fight. Please, let's do it for him. Let's welcome him till he gets here. Prof.
Good afternoon. Yeah, my most yet uh, um, well, all of very, very excited. Yeah, this very much is that polarizing thing. So I had to stop my days classes to teach, but I very much am in support of the crusade that is being led by Mr. Wilson. And so I said, let me stop what I'm doing and then come and offer my support to him so that together one man cannot arrest a madman. So we all must team up and partner with him to ensure that he makes giant strides in his crusade for Ghana. So that's how come, yeah, decided to be here. So he asked me to speak about security agencies and how they are polarized and also its dangers. And I was wondering how polarized security agencies would impact on corruption. He didn't say I should link it to the fight against corruption. He just said you are delivering on polarizing security institutions on party lines. And I added, and with its dangers, I added that to it. So I'll look at the security agencies and how they get polarized. I'll look at the effect of getting these institutions polarized, and then how their polarization could also impact negatively in the quest to fight against corruption. So by polarization, we mean deliberately creating division into two sharply contrasting groups or sets of opinions or beliefs in an organization and or within a group or in a state. Such polarization or division can be between the economic and social classes of the rich and the poor. It can also be racial between blacks, whites, or colored. And more importantly, and for the purpose of this presentation, it can be on party lines. Now, as I said, I've been asked to speak on polarization of the security agencies and its dangers to a democracy and also to the fight against corruption in Ghana. So, the security agencies that immediately comes to mind as far as this exercise is concerned would be the police, the army, the customs, excise and preventive service operating as an agency of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and you can also talk about the immigration service. Um, in terms of their role in the fight against corruption, I think it is obvious these agents, especially the police, would have to effect arrests of people who are suspected to be corrupt. They must investigate under the instructions of the, and then under the guidance of the Attorney General. And then they must also prosecute, with the help of the Attorney General, people found culpable of corruption. So security agencies, the fighting corruption or their role that they can play in the fight against corruption will be in the areas of the effecting arrest, investigating allegations of corruption, and then if people are found culpable, then they would have to go to the courts to also prosecute corrupt officials. So how do they become polarized, these security agencies? How do these security agencies get polarized on party lines? Now, in the view of Aristotle, man is by nature a political animal. And under the dispensation of multi-party democracy or multi-partyism, in my view, it is normal that many may have political parties of their preference. It's not a big deal for people to have political parties of their preference. So it is not so much out of the norm for you to see a police officer who believes in the ideals of the NDC or the MPP. They would be voting ahead of even all of us, special voting, and so they vote. So it is not out of the norm for security agency officials to have political parties of their preference. It's not a big deal. But it is only when people and officials in these security agencies act in a manner that makes them partisan, that brings about their polarization. How do they act in a manner that shows or makes them partisan? It's only when you hear or you see them talking about partisan politics and showing clearly that, look, I belong to party A or party B. Sometimes some security officials are not smart at all, and they are sent to go on assignment. You hear them talking partisan politics and showing that they belong to party A or party B. When Max Weber talks about political neutrality of public servants, including security agencies, he didn't mean they shouldn't vote. What he meant was that they had every right to vote, but they should not be seen openly campaigning and openly identifying themselves with any political party. And if you do this, it means you are doing partisan politics. If you speak in favor or against publicly of a political party, you are doing partisan politics. If you are seen at party rallies and your duty there is not that you are going to maintain peace, law and order, but you are there because they are having a rally and you want to be there, it means you are doing partisan politics. If you are seen to be wearing party paraphernalia, I'm talking about party t-shirts, party shorts, party everything, then you are also doing, partisan politics. And like I said earlier, if you are seen to be openly telling people that don't vote for this party, vote for that party, you are doing partisan politics. But, so, among these security agencies, oftentimes what kickstarts actions and inactions on party lines is in a way that points to polarization, is a way and manner many of their members or officers are recruited, and also how their heads or how the heads of these agencies, security agencies, are appointed. So you ask yourself, how are officials or officers or members of these security agencies, recruited? Every now and then that we are told that there is going to be some recruitment into these security agencies, it's party foot soldiers who get the nod. So every MP has a list. Every appointee has a list. Everybody who operates on a political party ticket, they all have their lists. And because of the problem of patron-client relations, these politicians see it as a duty to send a list of their support base, a list of party foot soldiers as their people who are expected to be recruited. So about, if like 6 months ago or so, she actually called me even this morning. I have my niece who is done with school. She doesn't belong to any political party. And she says she wants to be a police officer. And she's been to school, she's qualified for training. And after training, you can then be recruited. And so the parents got in touch with me wondering how I could help. And I spoke to a few people. They were saying that, look, you have to make sure that she supports one of the political parties. See, both, even the opposition, both the ruling party, they all have their lists. So they were asking, where does she belong? If you don't belong, then your matter is miserable. So if you belong, then they can add you to the list. But Max Weber is saying that the appointment or recruitment into such professional services must purely be based on meritocracy. It shouldn't be based on the party that you support. So can't you see, you have so many police officers misconducting themselves. And it's simple. As a party foot soldier, our government has come. We were looking for people to go into the security agencies, and then they recruited us. And they are the people who misbehave. They are the people who would manhandle you when at the slightest provocation. And they are the people who behave unprofessionally. Another way of, so if you go through that route of just sending a list of party foot soldiers to appointing authorities to be recruited into the police service or into the security agencies, since you are politicizing the security agencies. Another way has to do with how the heads of these security agencies are also appointed. So generally, party apparatchiks are given preference when it comes to recruitment into these agencies, and the appointment of their heads or the heads of these security agencies is also made on party lines without recourse to the Weberian ideal of meritocracy. So look at the heads who are appointed. How are they appointed? We know how the officers of these agencies are appointed. But how about their heads too? A politician will look at the various people who are qualified, and sometimes they will just handpick those who are the least amongst them. It's political appointment. So you have served, if you like, for 20 years and you qualify. Someone has served for 10 years, he qualifies. Another person has served for 5 years and he qualifies. Another one may have even served for just 1 year. And when the politician is looking forward to appointing the heads of some of these institutions, they can go ignore the one who has 20 years experience and go for the one who has 5 years or 1 year experience. And they will appoint you. And so once such a head is appointed, It is not a meritocratic appointment. Because part of the Weberian ideal concept of meritocracy include experience, longevity in service and experience. So if we are all qualified, but are more experienced than you, then the principle of meritocracy would insist that the more experienced person should be appointed. But we don't believe in that. Politicians will just handpick. And so if you look at yourself, and then you see that, look, I am an appointee with just 5 years experience, but my seniors have 20 years experience, 15 years experience, then you see your appointment as just a mere political grace. And so you are always beholden to the appointing authority. So once this happens, such recruits and appointees begin to either build party support or align with an already existing covert party grouping in the agency. This then creates a we and them environment and condition in such hitherto disciplined nationalistic and patriotic agencies required to act in the service of Ghana and not in the service of political parties in power. Those who feel left out in this equation also will team up among themselves and work with limited commitment in bidding their time for a change of government, so they can also act in a manner partisan, or in a partisan manner, either overtly or covertly, to show polarization. So this is how we polarize our security agencies. First of all, through recruitment into them, and then secondly, through appointments of their heads. Two main sources of polarization of these security agencies. See, somebody would have to appoint somebody, okay, and to head institutions or security institutions, appointees wouldn't have to come from the moon. Someone would have to appoint, okay. So ideally, it's not a problem if the president would want to appoint, but the way and manner the appointment power is exercised is what becomes problematic, where it is clearly done on party lines, where it is clearly done in a manner that sacrifices meritocracy. That is what then creates a problem. Generally, so polarizing security institutions along party lines in Ghana can lead to several significant dangers to the country's stability, democracy, and also in the country's quest to fight the canker of corruption. First of all, it weakens the security agency's ability to respond effectively to threats. Officers in polarized security agencies are less likely to cooperate, resulting in stalemates or lackadaisical responses that leave the country vulnerable to internal and external threats. Second, it is one key explanatory variable that accounts for the rise in vigilantism. If security agencies are polarized, then you can expect that vigilante groups would also proliferate. And the reason is simple. When people perceive the security agencies, particularly the police and army, as polarized on party lines, they lose their trust for them and form their own powerful security groupings that pose severe danger to our peace, democratic governance, and development. Indeed, the politicization of security institutions erodes trust in the police and other law enforcement agencies, such that the opposition parties often view the police, for instance, as biased towards the ruling government, leading them to rely on vigilante groups for security. And these security vigilante groups, often made up of unemployed young people, are used by politicians to further their interests and maintain power. They attack opponents, destroy property, and even target their own party members who feel they have not fulfilled certain promises that they may have made. So this creates a culture of fear, violence, and impunity. Third, just related to the point I've just read earlier, is the fact that when security institutions are perceived as polarized on party lines, public trust and confidence in their impartiality and their ability to serve all citizens diminishes. This can lead to lack of cooperation between the public and law enforcement, undermining security efforts. Further, a polarized security apparatus may exacerbate tension during elections or political events, leading to violence and unrest. If security forces are seen as favoring one party, their actions may escalate conflict rather than mitigate such conflict. It's also worth emphasizing that a focus on political affiliation in recruitment into security agencies do not only polarize them, but can also lead to a lack of qualified personnel in security institutions. This may result in decreased effectiveness and morale among officers who are committed to serving the public rather than political interest. Last but not the least, a polarized security agency, like the police, as I indicated earlier, may prioritize party loyalty over professionalism, and this can compromise the rule of law and can also result in selective enforcement of laws where supporters of the ruling party are protected while opposition members face undue scrutiny and harassment. This happens and has dealt a severe blow in the fight against corruption and in the quest to achieve rule of law. So, this is this last point is that it's how the polarization in the security agencies, undermines or impact negatively in the fight against corruption. The security agencies are always mindful of officials of state who belong to the ruling party and those who belong to the opposition. And so, if they are polarized on party grounds, those who feel that, look, it is our government that is in power, find it also difficult to go after officials of state, because then you are fighting amongst your own self. So they will not do that. And so they are always harassing people who are who they believe are not the same political party with them, and then deliberately forgetting about those that belong to the ruling government. So if you have officials within a security agency and they were recruited, by the party or the government in power, they feel like, look, protecting or keeping quiet, not performing their role of arresting, prosecution, and also investigating some of these corrupt officials. They won't do it, because then it will be suicidal, politically suicidal. You'll be fighting against yourself. But if power changes hands, then they will want to go after those that they are not in the same political party with. And all these things undermine the quest for a holistic and very fair, objective, proactive solution and fight against corruption. The fight against corruption will be fought or will be embarked upon and lost if we approach it with polarization on party grounds. It will be fought and lost if those who are supposed, the security agencies that are supposed to be arresting, investigating, and also prosecuting, are themselves polarized on party grounds. And you know that in our part of the world, if you want to get away with murder, just identify yourself with one political party. Then that is all. If they are coming after you, you say, because I belong to MPP or because I belong to NDC, then you make the matters murkier. If politicians want to make whatever you are doing murky, they would tag you. Okay, and then also, if you want to undermine the fight against corruption, then you make sure that your security agencies are polarized on partisan grounds. Once they are doing that, once they are polarized on partisan grounds, it becomes difficult for them to fight it holistically, and so they may be lackadaisical. So I will conclude by saying that excessive partisanship has been the bane of Ghana's quest to develop and Ghana's quest to also fight corruption. It predates the Fourth Republic. Kwame Nkrumah, for instance, sought to quote and unquote CPP-fy all state institutions and non-state actors in a manner that supported his turning of Ghana into a one-party and a police state. So Nkrumah sought to affiliate the CPP with all state institutions. That's what I refer to as the CPPification of the CPPification agenda of Kwame Nkrumah. So every state institution was made partisan. Okay. We seem not to have broken free from this bogus legacy. Typically, we copy bad practices for political equalization purposes and relegate to the background best practices. Now, judging from the brief presentation that I've just given, polarization of our security agencies is certainly unhelpful in our fight against, in our quest to fight corruption. If we really are serious, then we should be sure that our security agencies are not polarized on party, grounds. We should be mindful of the caliber of people we recruit there. If we are recruiting them there, it should be based on meritocracy. It shouldn't be based on party consideration. The headships of these, or the heads of these institutions, must also be recruited based on merit. So we must therefore depolarize such important national institutions from the shackles of petty partisanship, petty partisan, and sometimes very childish politics. The way and manner we do our party politics, so childish. People who are supposed to have their heads properly screwed on, just because of partisan politics, suddenly they can't think. People who are highly educated, just because of partisan politics, suddenly they can't do things right. That is why I've always said that excessive partisanship breeds madness. So how do we achieve this? Our recommendation number one is that recruitment must be based on meritocracy. Appointment of heads of these institutions must be competitive and must also follow the lines of Max Weber's postulations and in line with what pertains elsewhere, like the competitive selection processes of examination, interviews with the best candidate selected. The Metropolitan Police head in London is not appointed by the Prime Minister. The person goes through a competitive selection process. You write examination. If you pass, you have passed. If there is interview, you attend an interview. And then they quiz you. The best candidate emerges as the police head. So then you don't owe any allegiance. You owe allegiance to the state. You are not there at the behest of the appointing authority. Your appointing authority becomes the general citizenry. So, if we will be able to do these things, ensuring that we don't politicize or we don't polarize our security agencies on partisan grounds, then we would be able to ensure that these security agencies are indeed a force to reckon with. They can perform their role creditably in fighting or in helping the fight against corruption. I think because time is fast spent, I would end here, and because I'm also aware that we will come back to have discussion and question and answer series, I would bring my presentation to a close at this juncture and thank the authorities of this, the organizers of this event, and all of you for the attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Can we do it again? Let's appreciate him, please. We'll really dive into all the great things that he has submitted this afternoon. Let's welcome our next speaker, who is going to discuss or lead us in the topic, embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. And I'm referring to Dr. Lord Guans. Can we welcome him, please?
Good afternoon. I stand on the existing protocol established by Prof. Jampo, and thanks to the organizers for having me as well. I don't know, I had some PowerPoint. I don't know whether it could be projected so that we could see some of the terms. I have some excerpts that if you could read them, it would be appropriate. So just to talk about embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. So embezzlement, so it's about theft. And we should call a spade, right? It looks a big word, but the central theme is either you are stealing from the public or you are using the money for something else. Something different from what we intended that the money should be used for. Now, my interest here is for us to appreciate the fact that the money being spent by the politician is not their personal money. It is not a family fortune. It is our money. And for that matter, when you should be worried how this money is used. If they construct a road for you, they are not doing you a favor. It is our money that they are using. So, fellow Ghanaians, we should psych ourselves till we get to that point. I'm sure when you appreciate the fact that the money belongs to you, you have a stake in the money, and the money is being misappropriated, I think you'll be worried about it. I'm sure in our typical setting, for example, our family setting where our fathers or mothers leave us inheritance, you see the zeal with which you protect it. Because even with siblings, they will not allow the other sibling to take it away from them. They will make sure they sit down and then they share the property and everyone gets his own share. And that is the same thing. Every money being spent is our money. It's not someone's money. And for that matter, you should be worried how the money is actually used. Okay. So, sources of funding. As I said, the money came from all Ghanaians. And our resources, as I said, is not a family fortune. It doesn't belong to any family. And no family has absolute control over our resources. Every Ghanaian must have control over the resources because we suffered for it. And that is the mentality I think we should get to. When we get to that mentality, a politician will not come to your village and give you 10 cedis, and after he or she has misappropriated the funds and come and give you 10 cedis and you're okay with it. And you go all out to defend such a person. As I'm sure if your mom, your dad leaves you money and your brother misappropriated, you don't go around clapping for him, defending him. No, you'll not be happy with it. So get that mentality that the money is for all of us. So no one, including politicians or any public servant, is doing us a favor by being asked to manage our resources for us. It should be an honor. I'm sure growing up, a lot of politicians, in fact elsewhere, serving in government is an honor. But what of our setting, whenever they have the opportunity to serve in government, then they think it's an avenue to make money. Are we together? And that's how we normally think, that they are there to make money. Please, let's move to the next one. Okay, so I'm just looking at how government gets money, where the money is coming from. So I'm sure we know the taxes, all right? So we know the taxes. I've heard some politicians saying that, okay, a lot of Ghanaians don't pay taxes. That's why we don't have money. Of course, probably they are talking about a direct one from our, because a lot of people are not on official payrolls and all those things. So they may not pay direct tax. But in fact, the water you are drinking has tax on it. So if you are supposed to pay a particular amount, we have all drafted laws and we are saying that if I add this, I'm buying for this, I'm going to add this amount. And the reason why I'm giving that amount is because I want to help you contribute that amount for the development of the nation. That is the reason why we tax. We don't tax because we want somebody to take the money and enjoy it. No. So I'm sure those of us at various corporate institutions, at the end of the month, when they take your tax, at times you'll be asking yourself whether you are the one paying the government or is the government paying you. Because it's a very significant percentage of your salary. And if after this has been taken away and somebody is misappropriating it, then I'm wondering why you should be defending such a thing. So the money is from us. And we must be worried about that. And of course, we also get money from our natural resources, grants, and all those things. So all these are monies from us. In fact, even when they borrow, they don't go and borrow in their name. They borrow in our name. So we've all brought our will together and we are a sovereign state. So when they are borrowing in your name, in our name. Are we together? So every money we get is in our name. So you should be worried about how it is spent. And that is why this corruption fight is ongoing. So I get amazed when I see people defending this. We've agreed, myself and you, we've gone to borrow money. Then you see me using the money for something we never taught. And somebody is prompting you that this one is doing the wrong thing and you come and defending me. I'm sure the person who is misusing the money, later on, though you are not worried about it, he will think that you have low intelligence. And subsequently, he will always be doing the same thing. Because in our adage, it said that if somebody offends you and you don't try to let the person know, the person is likely to repeat the offense. And that's what goes on in our nation. We should be very worried about how our money is used. Please, let's move on. So be worried. The money is for you, it's for us, it's not for anybody. Please, let's move on. I think all these are other sources of funding, funds for the... Okay. So, in fact, for my presentation, I'm going to pick some case studies. Now, I'm limiting the case studies from 2017 to now, because I remember in 2016, one of the major issues of the campaign season was corruption. And this present government made a political capital out of it. And some of us supported it. I'm sure if you go to my Facebook page, I've not put out anything is there. But they come in, we saw for the money for value audits, so many things have been done, what have come out of those corruption allegations. In fact, some of them that were being prosecuted and were being asked to refund monies now feel more comfortable under this government than even the previous one. So because of that, I don't want to waste my time on the previous one where we talk over and over again. And they got the power and nothing has happened. So that is the reason why I'm selecting current cases for my interest. Okay, please let's go back. I think, okay, so there are many of them. Please let's start from that. So one of the first thing I'll pick is actually the National Cathedral issue. Please, let's start from the beginning of that. Yes. So I've gone through the Shraj reports that was released about 3 days ago, and then I have excerpts over there about the National Cathedral. So people hide behind religion and try to blackmail us. It is our money that has been misappropriated. Somebody says, God, if you help me to become a president, I'll build you a house. That is somebody's personal promise to God. And how you fulfill it is none of the business of the state. And that's what we're told from the beginning. Unfortunately, with time, this becomes a national issue. And we must be worried about it. On the lighter side, if you don't take care, somebody would one day promise the girlfriend probably a jet. And once he comes to power, he will use state resources to buy those things for the girlfriend. And this is what we should avoid. Now, if you look at the report, so I have the pages from there. So page 46 talks about how much? 225 million Ghana cedis, about $58 million gone. And this is how it was expended. And it's interesting. So the first one is the total. The next one talks about some of the things that they did. And it's just amazing. So one of the interesting things I saw was the trees relocation. So I'm wondering how they were able to relocate trees and all those. I don't know the technical issue about all those things. But this is, in essence, how much that has been expended. Please, let's move on. That's how much that has been spent. Now, if you read the report itself, the page 49 says that there was no PPA approval. And you see, we had religious leaders leading us. And we shouldn't neglect the law of the land in the name of religion. So, if you are a religious leader, you know, by our laws, at least you've heard it, that every money spent by the government on any project must go through PPA. So if you're a religious leader on this, and we give you this money, and then there's no PPA approval, and you go ahead, I think you should be worried about this, for condoning this act. For that matter, Ghanaians should not allow any religious person to blackmail us. You should rather be worried that these guys have brought the name of the God into disrepute by doing the wrong thing. We've had our brothers from the building a whole mosque without bringing the name of God into disrepute. So I don't know why this should happen. We should be worried about this. Okay, please let's move to the next one. So, as I said, how did the personal promise become a burden to the nation? So this is some of the excerpt from when the Shraj went to write to the Attorney General for response. This is some of his response. Please, let's move on. He telling us now that the National Cathedral is now a national project. How it transitioned from a personal project to a national project, no one knows. This is the same Attorney General that was in court. I think there's another excerpt there, telling the court, when somebody sent the issue to court, that it will not become a burden to the nation. So how come now the nation is suspended? Now, so this is the current state per the report. All these excerpts are from the report. The current state. So all the 225 million. So they have described what they found at the site. And all the 225 million Ghana cedis, this is what we have. We need just 10 million cedis to rehabilitate Konkwa Fanochi. But somebody has spent $58 million to do this. Okay. Please, let's move on. So, from the very beginning, the project started on inconsistencies. So I'm not surprised it's ending on inconsistency. Once you start on lies, you end on lies. So that's exactly what has happened in this report. Now, this and the other slide talks about various information from the Attorney General, from government spokesperson, from the President himself. Very conflicting report. At one point, you say this project will be funded by the Christian denomination. At one point, we are going to give the seed money. At one point, we're going to do this. Destroying public property on the land, including private ones. I'm sure up to now, they've not compensated some of them. So that is what has gone on. Very conflicting report. Let's move on. Okay. So as I said, these are more excerpts from the report talking about what they did. So that James Covenant Boniface Jr., that was a court issue challenging that. And the Attorney General was in court claiming it's not going to be a burden to us. So how come that huge sum of money went to them and we have nothing to show? I hope you know $58 million. That is a lot of money. I'm not sure if that money can build a whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. But all that we have to show is that. Okay, so please let's move on. Okay, so what is the outcome of the probe? They state a lot of things, including the fact that the contract itself is illegitimate. All right? We know how contracts should be awarded. How the cathedral moved to become part of the museum board is all we don't know. But the issue is that all that they are saying. They awarded a contract. How they awarded a contract is illegitimate. And that is how much they've spent on our money. So all these are just recommendations. In fact, they even recommended the prosecution of the board of directors. In the sense that if you claim this is a public project, then those over there are public officers. And for that matter, once they misappropriate funds, they must be prosecuted. Are we together? Okay. So that is how much we have. Now, I want to urge Ghanaians not to take this as a religious matter. As it's recommended, a crime has been committed They've given out our money. We can't account for the money. I'm not sure this who is worth what we are. This is a government that was going around saying that they are going for value for audits and all those. We don't know what came out of that. And this is pure misappropriation of our funds, and we must find a way of surcharging them. I'm sure our revered Mr. Domolovo is here. He's done that in the past. Unfortunately, since he left, we are not seeing that. But I think this is one typical example of misappropriation of funds that we should be worried. It is your money that has been used that way, and you shouldn't be defending this. Please, let's move on. Okay, please, let's move on. I think when you get a report, I have the pages there, so we can share this with you. Okay, so this is the recommendation. Okay, so let's pick another grand corruption scheme where our funds have been embezzled, misappropriated, and all those things. Now, just when the president took power, we were told that he's putting his presidency on the line. I just decided to crop the images so they can go to this website and look at it so that it doesn't become a hearsay. Okay, so in that move, they claimed we were going to acquire 200 drones for about $3 million US. You heard those stories, right? I never saw the whole fleet of drones. All that we saw was that they had some people over there, they claimed we were training them, and we saw a table with 3 of the drones. That's what I saw in the media. But seeing all the 200, I never saw them. I don't know whether there's anybody here who saw all the 200 drones. It never happened. And the intention was that these drones were going to be used for corruption, the Galamsey 5. What happened? We don't know the whereabouts of the drones. Up to now, we don't know exactly where they are. So that is the trouble we find ourselves in. Are we together? This is $3 million. I'm just mentioning the amount to you. That's a lot of money. All right? Okay. So let's move on. And then, okay. So I'm sure just after the start of the fight, we had so many things. Now, these are various links. You can go to them and then listen to these things. All right. So the president said he's putting his presidency on the line. Just when the fight started, we had the corruption issues coming up, where Ekosi was caught on tape saying that the party needs money. So because of that, once corruption entered the fight, we knew that everything was not going to work. Because then all the excavators got missing, and he had reasons. And I have another thing over there where he was mentioning names of people involved. We've heard Kennedy Japan also trying to mention names that he never knew that this person was involved, this person was involved. So all those voices are there. And we also know of the Prof. Pombwati report, all right? And we know so many things that have happened. So, of course, the Galamsey, we are not saying it's all our politicians. We have chief also doing that. That video over there talks about how Otunfo distills some chiefs from involving in Galamsey. So I miss all those things. Now, whenever we want to fight this, we go to those down there and then just pick a few of them and deceive ourselves that we are fighting it. But actually, those guys are actually the guy. These are just the minions that they are using for this. Are we together? Okay. So we know how much that went into this. The money for the drones, the money they claim they use for the security agencies, moving them around and all those things. What became of the fight is that today our water bodies are worse off. Are we together? Please, let's move to the next one. Our water bodies are worse off. And that we should be worried about it. So that is our forest. It's amazing the people we put in place to defend or protect the resources are the very people who go in stealing. That is the ally. Unheard of that the whole government will say that I want an ally so that I can mine in forest. It's just amazing. We also see, even in October, while UTAG was agitated, they were still issuing licenses. We go to, so I'm sure, and then as Prof said, our unwillingness to prosecute. I'm sure one of the popular stories are Konta mining. And recently we saw how Erastus Asaridonko and Co were beaten. Because as he said, they know those who committing the crime, they know they belong to the political party, so nothing will happen to them. And that is the same zeal with which they are destroying our lands. So Galamsey has been one of the most corrupt fights ever initiated. Are we together? Please let's move on. Okay. Please let's be quick. Okay. So, as I said, I'm sure we heard of those people that were prosecuted. The Democracy Hub people, you see the speed with which they were prosecuted. Just because they were fighting. You see, if as a Ghanaian, citizens are happy, please sit down and reason through it. Akwanta mining and coal have destroyed our water, but there is evidence they are not prosecuted. Somebody is agitating and is being prosecuted against the wrong and is being prosecuted. That should tell you somebody in authority has interest in the rot that is going on. And of course, we've invested so much into this, but we have nothing to show. In fact, our situation has gone from probably worse to more terrible, right? So we should be worried about this. Please, let's move on. Okay. So corruption has really done this. Look at the state of the water bodies now. This is the state of our water bodies now. And as a Ghanaian, you should be worried about this. You may be in Kumasi and then buying yam, but you must be buying yam that may be actually full of heavy metals, and you should be worried about this. What has happened to our nation through Galamsey is the greatest corruption scandal. I see it. And it's with no regard for human life or your existence. And in the olden days, what I knew, one of the ways of overcome your enemies is to go upstream of their river and poison it, so that when they drink it, they all die. I'm sure in these days, that will be classified as war crimes. And that's exactly what we are doing to ourselves. And this, we have state actors, state officials in here helping this to go on. So why will a young man be defending this in the name of party politics? Why will a Ghanaian of sound mind who can vote defend such a thing? Your money has been sunk into this rot and there's no result, and you stand up to defend this? So I just want you to appreciate the fact that somebody has wasted your money to create more problem for you. And you should be worried about that. Are we together? We should be worried about that. Okay, please let's move on. Because of our time. Okay. So, please let's move on. I think I've said that. Okay. I'm sure we know of the Palu Water Dam as well. Almost $12 million also gone. And the intention was that every year the Bagri Dam is filled. And look at the troubles our folks in that area go through. And the intention is that we can build this bill for irrigation and power generation purposes. Fantastic idea. Then we can sink $12 million over there and there's nothing to show. And they are saying the money is for mobilization. That's what the Ghana Irrigation Authority is saying, mobilization. I don't know exactly what you see over there when you go there, what has been mobilized onto that field. But that is the state, $12 million gone. So here, just know that I'm sure if this money has been used for the dam, whenever there is spillage, our people will be saved. But because this money has been wasted, our people are still suffering. That is the impact of corruption. What we should have used our money for, we use for something else. There is nothing to show, and the people who are supposed to benefit do not. I'm sure recently when the Bagri Dam was spilled, we saw what happened. They have to suffer for it. But if this money had been used for something reasonable, our people will be okay there. And interestingly, I think some of the tributary of the spills actually around the vice president's place. And if we can be this cruel to ourselves, we wasted the money for nothing, no work done. So as a young man, why will you defend this? That is my team. Why should you defend such wickedness and corruption in our system? I continue to say, and I stand by what I already say, if you allow people to take you for granted, they will always take you for granted. Because they will know you are not smart. And that is what a lot of these guys think, that we Ghanaians are not smart. So they can always play on our intelligence. And just as Prof said, they will play the political card and then we fall into it. Now, this is money that could have saved these people. It's wasted. Immediately you say this, somebody will play the MPP card, someone plays the NDC card. Just like the Galamsey fight. When you tag Rose, then the MPP and NDC came in. The NDC people, the MPP people, that is all. Once that comes in and you are not smart, you also join. And then it kills the substantive issue gets lost and becomes this party did more than this party polluted the water more than this. I mean, what manner of country are we building based on this? Please, let's move on. So I have some few examples as well. Please, let's move on. Think I'm okay with this. Just some examples as well. I'm sure we remember this very well. Where our minister then told us that we needed about 9.9 million. But today, about 61,000 people from Gold Coast have not been paid. And it's estimated by the time we finish paying them, that's where we are getting to. About 34 billion Ghana cedis. I mean, let's take, I'm sure even those market women in KJT, excuse me, who are not schooled, will not waste this much money. Waste 34 billion to solve a problem that was about 7 to 9 billion. So it's your money that they wasted. It's our money that they have wasted this way. And somebody, some way must account for this money. Don't defend us. I'm sure if you had a relative who suffered because of this. I have an uncle who had left a good life. He was a banker. He made all the investment. He thought that he could retire early. He retired. Today, at times money to buy his drug in retirement is a problem. Not because he led a irresponsible life. No. Because somebody somewhere took a decision that has pushed a lot of the middle class into the poverty lane, as if it was a deliberate attempt to wipe out the middle class. And you should be worried about this. You should be very worried. So let's go on. Please, let's move on. So whilst this pain was going on, we wiped out the banks, we were still borrowing. And when we were borrowing, the finance minister and others were benefiting through the data bank. And we borrowed till we could not borrow again. Not because we were not willing to borrow, but because people said that you are too junk an economy, we can't give you money again. Whilst we were borrowing, somebody was benefiting. And now, innocent people, I think we've seen the former Chief Justice joining some of these agitations for the money to be released. Up to now, these old folks are still suffering. Let's move on. So in Manasseh's book, he has an excerpt about how much one bank got, about $9.2 million. That's how much Data Bank alone made from the borrowing. The Eurobonds, although that were released, that's how much they made from it. Fidelity Bank and a whole of others also made similar amount. But when it came to restructuring debt, they were not willing to yield any of their money. But they thought that they should come to you. They should come to the ordinary Ghanaians and then restrain us from getting access to our money. Are we together? That is where we are as a nation. People think that they can do anything and go scot-free in the name of politics. And the sad thing, as I continue to say, that our young ones, don't allow yourself to be used as political animal, as Prof said. Don't always be pushed around. Let not somebody make so much money and immediately he mentioned the name of NDC, MPP, that you start following the person. Meanwhile, you've not gotten even $500 or $1,000 out of this money. And you want to risk your life for such a person, defend such a person. I'm sure after defending that person, the person will be at his home or her home thinking that you are not correct, you are not smart. Because your money that I've taken, and somebody is saying, why don't I give your money back? You are saying, I'm defending you. So let's be smart. Okay, please let's move on. Okay, so I continue to say myself, I'm on social media and I'm very vocal on it. Are these things we should be defended? For example, I've just given you about 5 examples, but I'm sure the sheet that you hold, if you go to the back, there are many of them. But are these things that you should be defending? So if I see people defending this, I have 2 hypotheses. It's either you are a beneficiary or you are not being smart. Are we together? Because if you did not benefit from this rot, why will you defend such a thing? So those defending it, some of them are actually beneficiaries. They benefited from the rot. How much did you get that you also defending such rot? Are we together? Or if, as I continue to say, I'm sure there was some study that I disagree, but it says Ghana is ranked at the 8th with the lowest IQ, which I disagree. But I'm sure if the whites sit somewhere, somebody in the Western world sit down, and they get to know that this is the rot that has gone on, $58 million sank into National Cathedral, and then somebody just clicks political button and start defend this person, then you are giving credence to the fact that you have low IQ. Are we together? I'm sure we meet our friends elsewhere and they ask us, is this true that this has happened? Because unheard of that somebody will do this and click political button, religious button, and then you are up defending them. Please raise your intelligence level as a Ghanaians. We must, as a population, raise our intelligence level because these people are taking us for granted. Are we together? So I'm sure, as I said, now when it comes to corruption, I'm sure in 2016 we all hear corruption was a major political issue. What happens now? I'm sure now it's sour, and you don't hear government officials talking about corruption when it comes to the campaign. A lot of them are quiet on it. I'm sure, to referently, when there was a media encounter where Chief asked the former president what he would do about corruption, he was talking about it. But it looks like corruption, the word has become so sour in the mouth of politicians now, because they are all deep neck into it. Are we together? We're all deep neck into it, and we must be worried about that. Okay, so please, the last one. Okay, so the charge. Ghana does not belong to anyone. It belongs to every one of us. Are we together? Ghana does not belong to anyone. It belongs to all of us. Can we say that? Ghana does not belong to anyone. Ghana belongs to all of us. And every money we have is our money, it's not their money. So please don't defend such shapes. Are we together? Even if your father steals, tell him, return the money. This money is not for the family, it's for all of us. Let's get to that level, and I'm sure that's what happened elsewhere. You dare not, because your own son will go and say that you've stolen money. But here, when they steal, I'm sure we clap for them, because they will steal millions and come and give you thousands, and then you clap for them. Are we together? Okay, we've seen the money they are sharing around during this campaign season. You think it's the money that is hard-earned money? Who will earn money in this hard way and spend it this way? It will not happen. Okay, so don't put your reasoning and vote on autopilot. Are we together? If it is wrong, it is wrong. If it is corrupt, say it is corrupt, and then stand against it. This is patriotism. This is patriotism. We must be patriotic and call a spade a spade. If it is corrupt, it is corrupt. Defend right, abhor corruption and misappropriation of funds. Contend for this for Ghana. All right. Sorry, the spelling mistake. It's a soul. Okay. So the soul of Ghana. I'm sure Ghana is very sad now. All right. You agree? Where we find ourselves. Where we find ourselves. A junk economy. I'm sure it should not be. Look at all the money that has been spent. If we kept this money, I'm sure the e-levy that you are paying, which you are not happy, we don't need this e-levy. It's not, to me, it's not as if we do. There are nations, you go there, it's all about a Greek, some purely taxes, and the natural resources we have here. Why should we be borrowing, still be borrowing? It's because of greed and corruption. Are we together? So as a nation, we should be worried about that. Now, the last thing, power belongs where you think it is. We think the politicians are powerful because we have given them power. It is our collective power that we have given to them. Are we together? If we withdraw that power, they are nobody, they are just like us. Are we together? Now we are entering the political season or whatever we are doing. Make sure you use your power rightly. That is all that I will say. So that nobody takes you for granted. So that nobody takes you for granted. Don't entertain corruption. Ghana is not poor. Somebody has said we are not poor. Indeed, we are not poor. It is this greed, corruption, and embezzlement that has brought us this far. Are we together? Always bear in mind, the money is ours. Ghana is ours, not somebody's. And we must live with this zeal for our nation. This is patriotism, not the partisan one defending everything. Put your conscience in the interest of our nation and don't allow anyone to take us for granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can do better, please. Are we learning something? Are we enjoying the program? Great. Let's quickly welcome the third speaker, but on the program is actually the fourth speaker. He plays a dual role. He's actually our host, and he's also a speaker. But he's a great man, so I know he can come. He knows what to do. Let's welcome Professor Samuel Dujemfi. He's talking on poor governance and leadership. Please, let's welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also standing on the existing protocol to proceed. Like my brother said, I'm supposed to be moving about to make sure you're okay, but I have to say something. And I've been told to talk about, let me remind myself of what I'm supposed to talk about. Right. Which is very important. I'm supposed to discuss poor governance and leadership. And I'm certain that what Dr. Gowans talked about, he has nailed exactly what I have to talk about. But because I have to say something, I'll proceed to touch on some few items. In fact, we understand that the essence of governance is to make sure that institutions or state are properly managed and ordered. So in many ways, there are practices, there are procedures that are set in place for these state actors, i.e. the executive head, who is the president, the vice president, other ministers, several of whom Dr. Gowans have discussed their acts of wrongdoing in many ways so far as this discussion is concerned. So that when you have governance in place, then what you are saying also is that those who are running the system and making it work are the leaders. And they are doing actually 2 or 3 things. Fundamentally, they influence and facilitate a system. So, abuano, so be pra, free as affinity. Wait, if the animal is about to decompose, it starts from the head. You would see that the leader is supposed to influence. To what extent is that leader influencer? Very soon, we'll go into elections. We are either going to vote for the MPP or NDC, definitely, these 2 political parties. So when we go to vote without conscience, as Dr. Gowans largely is talking about, then what we are saying is that we are equally as corrupt as those who are facilitating and influencing adversely. So when you look at candidate A or B, who wants to become the executive head to govern this country, to administer the affairs of institution Ghana, you are in many ways voting for someone who can positively influence and affect the development of Ghana. But then this leads us to our understanding about politics, which must lead to development, and governance, which must provide the public good. Because what poor governance, the adjective poor governance, does is that the state's resources and the management of same is not appropriately administered to serve the interests of the people. And for that matter, the people do not become beneficiaries of what governance is supposed to provide for them. But there are two key issues we look at in terms of facilitating a system and influencing it. It's what we call 360 degrees leadership. So that when you vote for person A or B, his party will form a government. And when they form a government, it is the responsibility of the executive head to make nominations or appointments. And when the citizens have voted for a leader, that leader is also supposed to appoint other leaders. But unfortunately, a lot of these leaders who are serving the main patron or the executive head, several of them are just party apparatchiks. They are just, so to speak, in many ways, party loyalists. And they are not appropriately interested in the science of governance. And if I may, Prof. Jampo made reference to a very important point. I just want to look at the Weberian thought, which she shared a lot of thoughts about, because that is very significant. Because if we're looking at good leadership and the leader providing other leaders to support him, then that should be guided by some of the earlier ideals that Weber puts across, so that it's argued, among other things, that the ideal type of rational legal bureaucracy, there are hierarchies which are ordered core of officials who are recruited and promoted according to objective criteria such as educational qualifications, and who are allocated fixed jurisdictional areas governed by laid down rules and procedures. The core characteristics of this type of bureaucracy are, importantly, impartiality, impersonality, and above all, the strict separation of incumbency and office. So, you vote for person A, whose ambition is to recover his or her debt that he or she might have accrued historically because of politics. And then he or she goes to appoint or nominate others who also have ambition to whet or enrich themselves. Then we all as citizens must come to the point of a rising chorus of mea culpa, that we all must say we are guilty, we are guilty, we are guilty, because we vote into power bad leaders, corrupt leaders, who give us other leaders who are equally corrupt. And if that is the case, then we all Ghanaians are corrupt. So there are critical questions I believe we need to answer. It seems to me that the whole corruption league, African League, has persisted over time. In fact, in the year 2000, IUT provided a breakdown of funds that have been stolen by some heads of state. General Sani Abacha of Nigeria is said to have stolen $20 billion. Ofe Boyen of Cote d'Ivoire, $6 billion. General Ibrahim Babangida of Nigeria, $5 billion. Mobutu of Zaire, $4 billion. Musa Traore of Mali, $2 billion. Then Bedie of Cote d'Ivoire, $300 million. Denis Nguesso of Congo, $200 million. Then we have Omar Bongo of Gabon, $80 million. Paul Biya of Cameroon, $70 million. Then President Marion of Ethiopia, $30 million. The list continues. Significantly, what we have seen is that a lot and several of these politicians who present themselves for us to vote into power come with the ambition to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Unwanted dissipation of our resources, as seen in the Galamsey effect, as presented by Dr. Gowans. It comes about through avarice. What is corruption? And political corruption. Decay, decomposition. If it was good, it will be bad. And what is avarice? Greed, evil intent to enrich yourself. And when these people present themselves in white garments, but their interest is to take away from the citizenry, then they have even defeated the science of governance and the science of politics. Because in my estimation, maladministration or misgovernance is not governance at all. So that the individuals we have been voting for, what is wrong with us? This afternoon, I'm charging all Ghanaians and to all of us who are seated here, just to add my voice to Professor Jampos and that of Dr. Gowan. We cannot continue to plunder our own state by joining the executive head to give us misgovernance. What can we do to reverse the tide of corruption which has affected Ghana in many ways? One, increasing poverty is the order of the day. Increasing poverty has become the order of the day because of poor governance and poor leadership. It has become the bane of Africa and the bane of Ghana. Again, there is increasing insecurity, whether we like it or not, except we are not living in this country where broad daylight people are robbing others. There is a challenge of lack of sustainable development. And so when we work around this, then what it simply means is that Ghanaians must grow up. And the last charge I add to what Dr. Gowans has given to us is that we must vote based on issues and based on conscience. And when we have done that, we will save Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we do it again for him? Did I see Mrs. Professor Eddie Jemfi here? I think I saw her on the screen. There she is. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you. All right, so we'll go to the last speaker before we go into the public forum. And interestingly, before Professor D. Jemfi will finish, the last speaker whispered into my ears. Do you want to hear what he said? He said, you know, he has been with us. Of course, he's a board member of Crusaders, so he's been with us throughout the various regional conferences. And then he whispered into my ears. He said, so far, this is the best speakers you have assembled. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we welcome our next speaker who whispered into my ears. He's going to talk on revenue leakages and poverty. And I'm talking about our own Mr. Daniel Yadomlevo. Please, let's welcome him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Wilson, Jr. And good afternoon to you all. I wish we were in a church. I would have just given the benediction following what my colleagues have already said. But I'm sure the organizers will not forgive me if I just did that. But I must say that I'm very happy to hear from you people, starting from Prof. Jampo and Lord, and these days our professors are young boys. These are teenagers who are professors. When I was young and was on this campus, Kumasi, I grew up at the Bomsu Gate near Dr. Pia. Those days when they say professor, and some of them not even accept the title professor. They will say, call me professor, doctor, something. So it's quite heartwarming that the youth are actually taking over. And I would like to start by thanking the organizers for organizing this program. The fight against corruption is not just a moral duty, it is a constitutional obligation which is prescribed by Article 35(8) of the 1992 Constitution. And it states that the state shall take measures to eliminate corrupt practices and abuse of power. And in my candid opinion, the state has failed. In my candid opinion, the state is actually facilitating corruption instead of eliminating or fighting corruption in our country. I was reading a report from Imani Center for Policy and Education, and the report is entitled Fiscal Recklessness, and they were looking at ministries, departments, and agencies' report of the Auditor General, and they estimated that between 2021 and 2023, 4.8 billion Ghana cedis had been lost to corruption, and 13.9 billion between 2015 and 2022. And I would like to remind you that that is only one of the Auditor General's report. There are several other reports of the Auditor General. So it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm happy we are all talking against corruption today. And we are calling for a fight against corruption. Not because it is a pleasant thing to do, but fighting corruption is a dangerous game. I've always said that if you fight corruption and corruption doesn't fight you back, it means you are not making impact. Immediately you hit the spot, the correct spot, corruption will fight you back. And I hope you know corruption fought me. I was happy when corruption was fighting me because I said, I can't. They are feeling the pain, so they fought back. But let me be honest with you. Notwithstanding the fight that corruption will fight us back, if we stop fighting corruption, I don't know what it will do to us. Even now that we are fighting, see what they are doing. Listen to what Lord was producing. All those which in the past they will have called it OPPP, that they are stealing. Even as we fight them, see what they are doing. So I would like to urge you that let us never give up. Let us not give up, because if we give up, they will finish us in no time. I want to share a funny story which I've shared in other forums with you. It's about one professor called Babalola, who is the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos. He shared a story of a young man who during graduation had the best scores. So the professor called him and said, my brother or my son, I'll give you scholarship for you to go and do your master's. And the boy said, thank you very much. So 2-3 years down the line, the professor had even forgotten about this young man. The young man approached him and said, Prof, thank you very much. I'm done with my master's and I had good grades. And the prof said, good. Proceed and go and do your PhD. And the professor and the young man told the professor, no, I won't. He said, you won't do PhD? He said, yes. He said, why? He said, Prof, you know what? My friend who I was in the secondary school with, he is not the politician of our place, the member of our assembly. He has houses, he has cars, he has wives and side chicks. All that I have is paper. So I'm not going to continue. So the professor asked him, so what are you going to do? As a politics, of course. I'm going to politics. Funny as it is, the truth of the matter is that today, it seems the only profession which is paying in Ghana is politics. Is that not it? Doesn't it beat your mind when you see your classmates and your juniors who entered politics only yesterday and have become so filthy rich? Doesn't it beat your mind? They have become so corrupt and rich. And if there is any saying that the end justifies the means, that is what we are living today. Once you have stolen enough money, you are respected in society. Even the churches will call you to chair functions. Because you are rich. It doesn't matter where you got the money from. So that is what corruption is doing to us. I'm not discouraging you from joining politics. Actually, we need fine people like you to join politics, not the guys there. As for the guys there, they will not help us. So if the opportunity comes, let's join politics, but let's not join them. It is possible to join politics or be in public office and refuse to be corrupt. When I say this, some people don't agree. They say, oh, as for you, you came as an auditor general for just a short period. And I say, but do you know the temptations of an auditor general? Do you know the offers I receive? I said, for the sake of Ghana, I'm not going to change my stand. By the way, those who don't know, I was at the Treasury, Accountant General's Department for 19 years. I'm the director of payroll who did the IPPD. If you know of IPPD, the payroll on which they pay teachers and workers their salaries, I implemented it. I was the first director of GIFMIS, that is Ghana Integrated Financial Management System. I was the first director. I was in the Treasury from Rawlings' time, through Kufuor's time, through Atta Mills, etc. I've been in government. People think I just came from somewhere. I left 2010 to the World Bank and came back 2016. So you can be in public office without joining the loot that is going on. And I am always compelled to speak against corruption, like you guys you have done, because of 3 statements made by statesmen, and I would like to quote them here for us all to digest. The first one came from a gentleman called Easton. According to this gentleman, Albert Einstein, he said, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Those of us who watch on, you are the people causing the destruction of this world. We look and say, me. Some of them say they are not even partisan. They say, as for me, I don't want to be in politics. Fine, that is also okay. Okay, I have an answer for you from one of the archbishops I revere so much, called Fulton Sheen. According to Fulton Sheen, he said, the refusal to take sides on great moral issues is itself a decision. Did you hear that? If you refuse to take sides on great moral issues, you have actually taken a decision. He says it is a silent acquiescence to evil. You are accepting evil quietly. Now, this is the most important part which you should listen to. He said, the tragedy of our time is that those who still believe in honesty lack fire and conviction, while those who believe in dishonesty are filled with passionate conviction. Is that not true? You tune into your radio stations or your TV stations and you see corrupt public officers who should be in jail breaking our eardrums. Some of them, they know no shame. They can even display their ill-gotten wealth in public and tell you that what can you do? We are in power. Our government is in power. So you can do nothing. And the last gentleman I love so much is Martin Luther King Jr. He said, if peace means keeping my mouth shut in the midst of injustice and evil, I don't want it. If peace means the willingness to be exploited economically, dominated politically, humiliated and segregated, then I don't want peace. I'll add, I want trouble. Is that not it? I want problems. That's the right word. I want problems. So let us beware of the fact that we need always to fight corruption. I think we need to transform this country from corruption to integrity through transforming the governance of Ghana. In my view, we can achieve this transformation sooner than later if we make corruption unattractive and a high-risk venture. But I must say quickly that corruption is a multifaceted phenomenon. It comes from different approaches. Therefore, to solve the problem, we need a multifaceted solution also. But it must be collective. I have said time and again that you cannot win corruption alone. One person cannot fight corruption. That is why when I was Auditor General, I was working with the anti-corruption agencies and the media. If I was not telling you people how things were going, they would have killed me a long time ago. So you must always shine light. If you are fighting corruption, you must let the people know. So they said that this Auditor General was too media friendly. They wanted me to keep quiet so that they could finish me. I said, no, I won't keep quiet. Anything which happened, I put it in the public domain. So you don't fight corruption alone. We need to be together. And you can't fight corruption quietly. Let the people know. That is a very important thing we must all remember and do at all times. So I would like to say again that I don't want to repeat the issues raised here, but I would like to encourage all of us here that one thing that we lack as a country, which we must look for, is leadership. 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 Ghana has lacked leadership over the years. And to be very honest with you, my generation and the generation before me are a very wicked generation. They have destroyed the future of this country. These are the people who are able to tell you about the good old days. Have you heard that before? The good old days. And I say, whenever they tell you that good old days, please tell them, who, shame on you. You are a nation breaker. Why do I say this? Well, some of the things they said, I didn't enjoy it, but I saw it. When my elder brother was at the University of Ghana, I visited him. He was alone in his room. Today, how many students to a room? Only God knows. You hear that? 4 plus purchase. Thank you. Those days, where ministers could not even speak English, they were not educated. They didn't have degrees. They didn't have masters. They didn't have PhD. They could provide for them such that one person or two people to a room. They were having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and at times they went on strike because they didn't find some particular food on their plate. My elder brother told me before they finished university, companies were around to offer them opportunities. I hope you two have that. Is that not it? People who were given opportunities even before graduating. Now, before you can get employment, you have to pay in cash or in kind. So I said, and I'll keep saying, that given the level of technology and knowledge today, we should have looked back and said, never again, the past. But we are talking about good old days, which means we have failed. We failed the people. So it should not be the same like you. A chia into a mui. We have to chart our own path. We should not follow the corrupt leaders. We should not follow the greedy leaders that we have had in our country. If we get the position or the opportunity to serve our nation, let us become what I refer to as father. Let us be what? Father. Father, not as in the one who born a child. It is an acronym. And I'm going to unpack the father for you. You must be a leader who is fair. The F stands for fairness. You must grant opportunity to people and let meritocracy be the order of the day. So if you are a leader, you must reward people based upon merit. Not because it's from your tribe or because it's from your religion or something of that nature. So fairness is the first attribute that we expect of a leader. And of course, as we are going to choose our leaders, let's look for leaders who are fair. For instance, I was telling my colleague that Kumasi is the second capital of Ghana. Is that not it? So as we have 5 or 6 flyovers in Accra, how many do we have in Kumasi? And you go to some part of the country, even the road, it doesn't exist. Is that fairness? Are we not equally entitled to the national cake? So let's look for people who are fair. As they drive their 4-wheel drive, they should make transportation available and the roads passable for all of us. So you must be fair. As they go abroad for health care or checkup, medical checkup, our hospitals should function properly for you and I to patronize. You will be sick and you will be, I don't know whether it is the same in Kumasi. You will be shocked that when you are referred to another hospital, a tertiary hospital, they will tell you no bed. My younger sister was referred in Accra to Kolebu. There was no bed for 5 days. The 5th day when she arrived, she died. Later on, when we went there, we realized that there were empty beds, but they said the doctors have shared the beds. So if it is not your patient, you can't use the bed. Hospital which belongs to government, not a private individual. They have appropriated the government assets to themselves. And they don't care if lives have to be lost. That is the type of leader we should not look for. We shouldn't look for a leader who is, you see the convoy of the president, and how to fill even your tank is a problem. Is that fairness? What even surprised me is that when they are looking for votes like they are doing now, they go around playing dummy, pounding fufu, doing all sorts of things. Immediately they win power. They fear us. Now we should go off. Is this type of servants? And they call themselves public servants. Well, that is the F. The second one is accountability. A, in the Father. We need a leader who accounts for the resources and the power we have given to him or her, and holding himself and his followers accountable when things goes wrong. When the going is not right, he must say, this one I failed, and this is the consequences for it. We don't need leaders who will give excuses, but hold themselves accountable. So accountability is the next one. After accountability, we need leaders who are trustworthy. The T in the Father. You must be trustworthy. A simple question for you. Do you trust our leaders? Why not? Why not? They lack integrity. These are people who will be promising you the next yard anytime they have failed. Some people tell you, I will do you 3 things. He couldn't do even 1 out of the 3. Now he said, I'll do 10. Trust me. It's because I didn't promise you plenty enough the last time. So actually, I've been wondering if we can go and check the DNA of politicians. What is in their brain in particular? You come and lie to the people, you don't fulfill the promises, and you have the audacity to come back and increase it. So the last time we gave you 35 promises, now it has reached 90. You must be an idiot to be behaving like that. And you see, it doesn't even occur to them that the people they are speaking to can relate to what they are saying. That's what disturbs me most. They think they are being smart. So we must get someone who is what? Trustworthy. The H, we need a leader who is honest. Honesty. Honesty is the H. If things are going well, you say, yes, things are going well. If the going is not going, say it. That we are sorry. As for here, we failed. But we are making amends. What do we do in Ghana? We blame global factors. Say, aren't you aware that Russia and Ukraine are fighting? Even the people who are fighting, they still give us aid. And we accept. And like said by our vice president, how could a global phenomenon jump Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, everything and affect only Ghana? So if we are all subject to a global phenomenon, then what happened before our city is falling so sharp? What happened before our inflation is so high? Unemployment so high compared to our compatriots. Even I heard even the price of cocoa. Once we are paying 3,000, Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire is paying about 7,500. Togo is paying about 8,000. As for them, the fight didn't pass there. Or the bullets which are being shot from Ghana. So we need honesty. You need a leader who can tell the truth. Because if you are not honest, even the day you tell the truth, we don't believe you. Some of us, I don't know you, about you. When I hear the politician speaking, it just passes here. Because I know this guy, there's nothing left in him or her than lies. So you need leaders who promise and then they do it. You must be honest. The next one is E, which is equity. Equity, relative fairness in the use of public resources. You can't be a father who eats all the food, breakfast, lunch, supper, and your children are sleeping empty stomach. There must be equity. So as you build the mansions, I saw the president commissioning the flyover at Flower Pot. In fact, it is very near to my house. So it is very nice. I passed there even this morning to the airport. It's very nice. But the question which came to my mind is that from here, tomorrow, I'm going to Afram Plains. Will I be able to drive there? Where is the equity? Where's the fairness? So we need a leader who thinks about not only him and themselves, but thinks about the other people. I would like to give you a story about my father, what he told me when I became a chartered accountant, when I qualified. My father is an illiterate guy, but he is a village champion. So he called me and told me, Daniel, I hear you have gotten a qualification, which will make you a big man one day. I have an advice for you. I said, go ahead. He said, you know, if you are a leader or a chief, and they bring eggs to the palace, and you take it for yourself. They bring fowl, you take all. They bring goat or sheep, you take all. The day the cow arrives, the people will say, we don't go sit down. They will fight you. They won't allow you to eat the cow. But on the other way around, if you share the eggs among them, share the fowl, share the goat, if the cow comes, they say, let's reserve this for chief. And he added a very interesting comment. As you eat, they'll be clapping for you. They are happy that you are eating because you have taken care of your people. That's the equity I'm talking about. You don't sit in Jubilee House and eat all the money nyafu nyafu. And even kilometers just after the Jubilee House, you can see poverty in the face or the eyes of people. It is not right. That's not the type of father we are looking for. We need a father who is equitable. You take, you give your brother. You take, you give your child. You take, you give somebody else. It's what? Public funds. I'm happy Lord explained to you. It is not money from MPPO. It is not Nanado's money. It is not the minister's money. It is the taxes you and I we pay. And money is received on our behalf. We call it public funds. So it is not their money at all. And we have to hold them accountable. The last one, the R, is very important. Respect. You must be a leader who respects. The fact that you will become a minister, the fact that you become a president, does not put you above human beings. You must respect the human beings as well as their views and opposite or alternative or contrary opinion. Some will not tolerate any dissent. Lord, who are you? I talk and you also talk. Don't you know I'm a minister? But when you become a minister, you don't even go for classes. So not even an iota of knowledge add to the stupid one you had before you were appointed. But just because he has become a minister, he speaks with power. And I was actually told, when I was challenging government very often, one day they called me, we were talking and I was quoting the law. I was always defending myself with the law. Till somebody has told me in Chi, to it, we are talking about power and you are talking about law. And I said, oh, okay, so where did you get your power from? I thought it is the law which empowers you. I said, we want power, didn't you hear? We went for the election. That's where we had the power. So the power came from you, the people, to them. So we must be a father. Be fair, be accountable, be trustworthy, be honest, be equitable, and be respectful of people's views. I would like to say that I cannot thank you enough, Lord, for your expose, especially on the cathedral. It is one of the things which surprises me that can happen. If it is not in Ghana, I would have said it can't happen anywhere. But it has happened. Interestingly, like my colleague said, I came back from Malawi only yesterday. And one of my colleagues called me and said, Daniel, when they say 58 million Ghana dollars, how much does it convert into US dollars? And I said, idiot, Ghana doesn't have dollars. We are talking about US dollars. They didn't believe that we are talking about US dollars. You know, some countries have their own dollars. So they thought Ghana uses, we have local currency called dollars. So they wanted to know how much it translates into US dollars. And they read properly. It is US dollars. And they say they use that to dig a hole and say, yes. What Ghana cannot do does not exist. So it is mind-boggling. And I was called, immediately I arrived at the airport, I was called by some radio stations to find out whether I support the call from the Commission for Human Rights that there should be forensic audit and there should be value for money audit. And I say, yes, why not? There must be these further investigations to unpack the whole thing. Because though they have done enough justice to it, there are several things which has not yet been addressed. Because first, we need to address Article 178 of the Constitution. According to Article 178 of the Constitution, you can't use consolidated fund unless it is appropriated by an act of parliament or approved by parliament. So we must see whether that amount was actually presented to parliament or by any law was allowed. We need to establish that. If we did not get that, then it becomes necessary for the Auditor General, who has been called upon by Shraj to do the audit, to activate Article 1877 of the Constitution to disallow and surcharge the Finance Ministry. The Finance Ministry must be surcharged. And some people say, why Auditor General? Auditor General is independent. True. But read Article 218E of the Constitution. Article 218E of the Constitution says, the Commission for Human Rights, after the investigation of corruption-related offenses, may refer it to the Attorney General or the Auditor General for further investigations. Because in public service, there is what we call segregation of duties. The economists will call division of labor. When we come to forensic audit and value for money audit, that is the domain of the Auditor General. I don't know whether you get me. So I think that is in order. So if the Auditor General goes in and establishes that this expenditure is contrary to law, then people can be held accountable. But not only the Finance Ministry. You remember the report talks about procurement breaches. Now the trustees, they use the money. And the money must not be used because they are trustees according to the Bible. No, we don't use Bible to manage public funds. And we don't use theology to disburse public funds. We use what? The law, the Constitution, the Public Procurement Act, the Financial Administration Act. And the law provides how to disburse public funds. So if those payments did not conform with the law, then the Auditor General can disallow and surcharge all the trustees, the right reverence and the wrong reverence on the board. All of them, they have to pay the money back to us. That is only one side of the story, which is the civil side of the story. Now, the criminal side of the story is which the church says the OSP or the Office of the Special Prosecutor should take. Because they've committed an offense, which is a crime. So if that also comes on, then next time the men of God and the others, when they are invited to come and to pretend over misuse of public funds, they will think twice, if not thrice. So it is my hope and prayer that actually that investigation comes on, and the Auditor General, from my point of view, has no option than to do the audit, because a constitutional provision, I quoted it, read Article 218E of the Constitution. So Shraj was only activating their constitutional mandate by sending it to the Auditor General. And the Auditor General has a duty to get this country to do that needful. And I hope that it will be done and done very soon. How soon is that soon is what I don't know. I would like to say that we need, as a country, to respect the rule of law. What disturbs me, and I've said it since I was in office as Auditor General, is that the office of the president is at the forefront of lawlessness in this country. They should pretend over all the breaches, things that you can't even think about. They oversee it and allow it to happen, and I think that is not right. And permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to commend the youth who bravely stood against corruption, illegality, galamsey, and etc., to the extent that they were arrested and treated like armed robbers. In fact, the people who the police should have arrested is the people directing them to go and arrest. Ghana police don't know who the criminals are in this country. Those who are fighting to defend all of us are the people being arrested by my friend Dampare and his team. What's the criminals? They are protecting them. It's really unfortunate. I would like to entreat the Ghana police to stand up for Ghana, not to stand up for political parties or people who are holding public offices. So I call on the Ghana Police Office and the security agencies, especially as next week we go for the election, to uphold the constitutional rights of Ghanaians. Their job is to protect persons and properties, not to use muzzles. I saw a video of a soldier man who said, "I will beat the hell out of people." A senior military officer saying this in public, and up to today we've not heard anything. Ghana is gone to the dogs, to be honest with you. We don't have rule of law. I don't think he can do that in any civilized organization or country and go scot-free. Maybe he's been sanctioned. If it is, then it is fine. I also have an appeal to the Electoral Commission that they need to embrace transparency and accountability to ensure that everything they do is above board, especially where the suspicion is so high and we have evidence to be suspicious. Don't we have reasons? We have seen reasons why we should be suspicious. So the best they can do is to open their doors and be transparent to us all. My final admonition goes to the judiciary. I think judiciary is where we should all run to at the end of the day and say that somebody is infringing on my rights. But the judiciary has lost it completely. In fact, I think as you climb the ladder, you should be expecting better. Is that not it? Can you say that when we go to the university, the students in the university are daft more than the primary school students? I don't think that should be the case. As you climb, you should be brighter. Is that not it? Justice, as you climb, you should be looking for better justice. But today, some of us, we prefer the lower courts. Because as your case goes up, it becomes political. It's no more justice. And you can see where the judgment is going to go, depending upon your party colors. And mind you, I found it interesting when a former Chief Justice has to say that the judiciary has become so predictable. I think it's an indictment on our judiciary. They must redeem their image as quickly as possible. And even the Minister for National Security, Honorable Kandapa, has to say that you are favoring us too much. If you continue favoring us so much, it will create problems. You are favoring somebody to the point that even the one you are doing the favor to is worried. Abba, Ghana. What is happening? So I think we must all uphold and defend the good name of Ghana. Like I said at the start, as we fight, see what they are doing to us. And if we give up, I think they will finish us in no time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Can we do it again? Let's do it better for him. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are we really enjoying today's program? All right, so this is what we're going to do. We are moving straight to the next phase, which is the last phase, and that has to do with discussion. And so we'll quickly get the chairs prepared here. Our guests will come up. Let's hurry up. We don't have much time on our side. Let's do that quickly. Our guests will come up here, and today, unlike other regions where I moderate, today I will also be part of the congregation, and then we'll allow one of my colleagues in the media, Mr. Jantua, to be the one moderating, where we'll ask questions and we'll also open the the forum for each and every one of you to also ask any question, contribution that you intend giving. Can we quickly, right. Whilst we wait for them to do that, a number of things came through my mind, and I keep wondering, maybe the first question I will want to ask will be whether or not there's hope for Ghana. Professor Jampo, Mr. Domlevo, Dr. Lord, and Prof. Edijemfi. We want to know whether there's hope for Ghana. Because this conversation, we've had it a number of times, and it looks like we'll bring the last one, the last chair. Yes. Please, let's clap for them as they come up here. Yes, let's clap for them as they come up here. And so I'll hand over the mic to Mr. Jantua to take over. But I have actually said the question, the first piece. So that's my question, please.
Thank you, Senior. Thank you. Shall we clap for the Chief Crusader? Thank you, sir. Today we are privileged. There are certain people, we hear them and we see them only on the television. So this is an opportunity for us to interact with them. And as they were speaking, one of the things that I was picking was the passion to see a change. And there are 5 strategic questions I'll be asking. The first one will be on where are we coming from in the area of corruption. So Prof says, I want to engage you with the first question. Based on all the things that you have told us, where are we coming from? So because of the time, each panel will have at most 3 minutes to give us the answer, and then we pass on. So the first question will be on the issue of corruption. Where are we coming from?
Thank you very much. I thought it was started from here so that Penny Dominovo would have given us more historical figures. But I think we've come from a certain syndrome, maybe the majoritarian rule agenda, where Party A wins and Party A would have to form government and would form government with its own people. And also sometimes, and quite a number of times, you see nepotism come in because they have to give positions to their cronies and sometimes to their bootlickers. And quite often too, when they have done that, even the crumbs, they try to fight over it with us. So fundamentally, I think we need to look at the discussions that came up some time ago when we're looking at all-inclusive governance. In many ways, you want to, back to where Professor Jampo started from, the Weberian idea, you need qualified people. You need individuals who have the experience. For some of them, they even have institutional memory. You can realize that sometimes they bring these people to the appointment committee at Parliament, and some of them don't know A from B. I mean, so far as the area they are going to man is even concerned, they have shown no history, they have shown no commitment or passion or insight toward that sector. And quite often we are told, oh, you don't need a particular qualification, say A or B, to man a sector. But for some of them, when you even engage them in the arena of leadership, their CVs are just theoretical CVs. They have not tested them on the ground. Some of them just finished university and they were TESCON or TAIN members, and then they were given fat portfolios. This is where we have come from. But it leads us to also rethinking the ideological schools. What MPP and NDC can do for us. Begin to train leadership for the future. And when they go to their primaries, the kingmakers should not allow themselves to be bought, so that they will give us viable individuals that Ghanaians can also make choices from. Thank you very much.
So thank you. So I'll look at that. So normally, I'm sure we've seen several Auditor General's reports. It goes to Parliament, Public Account Committee. You've seen them debating over and over again. What happens afterwards? So I think it's just been a while that we've seen a Parliament where the executives always not having their way. And that is what we see today, the acrimonious one. Which people think is the worst Parliament, but this is the Parliament I've enjoyed most because the executive is not always having its way. Now, these reports are sent there, and I'm sure if our Parliament was indeed independent, I'm sure we will probe a lot of these things and they'll be prosecuted. How many times haven't they referred issue that they should prosecute? What happens? Nothing happens. So to me, Parliament itself is not crafted to put a check on the executive who spend this money, because report upon report, it's like become a ritual that we always report. We produce the Auditor General's report. It goes to Parliament. We talk about this one has misappropriated these funds, and then that ends there. So we should really, if we are saying the president should appoint a majority of the MP, the minister from Parliament. So everybody wants to catch the president's eye. How will such a person demand accountability? So that is one of the, our constitution itself in this essence is crafted to entertain those things. And I'm shocked up to this day, the present president has enjoyed this constitution to the max and he sees nothing wrong with it. A president who agitated so much that this constitution was drafted to protect the then president, military president Rawlings, has gone through almost 8 years and sees nothing wrong with this constitution. And that is the problem, because the Parliament is not holding the executive accountable. And as I see, while people are saying this is more acrimonious, I've enjoyed this Parliament because it's not allowing the executive to have its way. And unfortunately, the Attorney General has the prosecutor power. They recommend prosecute them, and up to now, nobody has been prosecuted as far as these reports are concerned. So the laws themselves, somebody has said our laws have become like that of the web. It's good at catching smaller animals, but the bigger ones, they go scot-free. And that is the background we find ourselves. Okay, thank you.
So now that we know where we are coming from, I would ask our two distinguished guests, where are we now? Professor Jampo, in terms of corruption, where are we now?
We are where we are. I believe the presentations point to where we are. The battle against corruption appear to have been fought and lost, and that's where we are. And I was more fascinated about the question that Mr. Wilson asked, that is there any hope given where we are? Where we are is, whether we like it or not, we can be talking, but the battle against corruption appear to have been fought and lost. And we are talking about it, but the politician is not listening. So my phrase, my popular phrase, it appears like we are just romancing a stone. We are romancing a stone. We're talking. And so whether there is hope or not, in my view, is contingent on what happens after January 7. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, power will change hands. Akufo-Addo is a goner. He's gone. Somebody will take over from him. Either it is going to be Bawumia, or it's going to be John Mahama, or Alan, or Cheddar. I'm broadening it a little so that they will not say. But the point is that whether there is hope or there isn't going to be any hope is dependent on how he who takes over the reins of power acts in relation or in response to the kinds of things that we are doing and the kinds of things that we are saying. That is what is going to give us hope. If it's going to be a business as usual, then I do not see how our democracy is going to be consolidated. I don't see the future of the sustenance of over 30 years democratic rule. I don't see any future for it. But if we get another leader who decides to act drastically, sometimes in Nigeria, I think when Buhari became president, just his pronouncement alone sent shivers down the spine of corrupt officials. Even when he had not gone after them, some on their own voluntarily elected to return monies that they had stolen. So if you get a leader who goes that route of saying, look, no nonsense to corruption, and he's going to go after those who are corrupt, the state will not be used to frustrate. They set up their own special prosecutor. We had recommended the separation of Attorney General's office from the Minister of Justice and to create, for the purpose of creating an independent public prosecutor. Akufo-Addo decided to go the easier route by setting up the special prosecutor. But soon, we saw how the special prosecutor was antagonized, and how since then he's not been any active, doing its work. So my point is that we are where we are. At the moment, in my view, we are merely romancing a stone. But whether we have a future, whether there is hope or not, in my view, depends on how the next government decides to act. I mean, this morning, I was telling Mr. Domlevo that, look, sometimes it feels like giving up. And he was advising that, look, we don't have to. Because even when we've not given up, see how they are conducting and treating us. So if you give up, then it will be difficult. So maybe some of us, how we've been created, maybe we can only threaten that we may give up, but we've been created such that it is even going to be difficult for us to give up. And so we'll continue. But how is the next government going to respond in relation to what we keep doing, drumming home the issues of corruption and calling for actions to be taken? If they take proactive actions, if they respond in a manner that shows that they really want to also fight corruption, then I think we have a future. But if they don't and it's business as usual, then we'll continue to lose the battle against corruption.
Thank you. Yeah, we are trying to get an additional mic. So, in relation to that, sir, Prof wanted to give up. At a point, did you feel like giving up?
Actually, Prof has answered for you. He said, I never felt, and no, I have never felt. I will come to that to answer you directly. But to add quickly to where we are today, we are a country that has become very comfortable in potentials. If you ask Ghanaians, we have, we can, but we never do it. A country which does not harness its potentials is a useless country. Countries who don't have resources, even a quarter of ours, are going far. So it is time we get the right leadership, which will start harnessing the resources, the human resources, which is the most important one of this country, into action. And we are here where we are because there are no consequences for misbehavior anymore. Especially if you have the right political connection, then you can get away with murder. And that is emboldening others to also join. If you can get away with it, why not me? Even you are a junior member of the party, or your political clouds are not enough. So that is what it has brought us. But as a person giving up on the fight against corruption, it is till death. It is only death which will make you do as part. Because I think I owe it a duty to the generations coming after me and yet unborn to expose the corrupt people and make sure that resources are used for the intended purpose. Thank you.
Would we have a lot of domelevus? I'm asking this because it appears that somehow you only find just one or few people that are seen to be fighting corruption in over 30 million population. Why can't we have, at the time that we talk about the fact that, okay, 7 out of 10 are supposed Christians and some are Muslims, and we're still struggling?
I wish my parents were still alive. I'll tell them to born more domelevus. But unfortunately, they have died, so there is no way they are going to produce. That's on a lighter note. But on a more serious note, yesterday at the airport in Ethiopia, the same type of discussion ensued. And I told my colleagues there that, look, there are so many professionals in Ghana. There are so many people who have the competence. There is only one thing which is keeping them away: fear. There are many chartered accountants who know what to do. There are so many lawyers, political scientists, but they will not talk the way you are talking because they are afraid. They are thinking about their own selves, selfish or self-interest. Like Prof said, if you don't reach a certain point, even in the academia, it is difficult for you to be vocal because your promotion may not come. It will dodge you. So if you want to be promoted, you don't want your head of department and etc. to hear of you saying things they don't like. Maybe he may be wearing the red political color and you are talking in favor of the green political color, which can affect you. So we need people to stand for this country instead of their individual selves. That's the problem the Ghanaian is becoming of. Everybody is for himself, God for us all. I don't think we build a nation like that. But let me assure you, if by next year, January, we get a proper leader, a year by this time, we will see the fruit of leadership. It doesn't take long. A true leader can transform this country within a short period. That's why some people say 4 years. I say 4 years is a long time, my friend. Can you fast for 4 years? 4 years is such a long time. If you have true leadership, within 6 months, within a year, you will start seeing the signs. Thank you.
Then it brings back the question. I would engage them very soon, but I wanted to get the intellectual understanding. We have, at least, you talked about either NDC or MPP. Now, Mr. Domolevo is talking about true leader. Are we expecting any true leader among the people that are saying we should vote for them?
It's a difficult question. I'm sure you are pinning me to the wall. It's a very difficult one. It's a very difficult one. I think that we want any of the such individuals who would emerge to be able to influence and effect change within the short period Mr. Domlovo is talking about. Because if that individual is unable to effect and affect, right, to bring change that will help the people, then there is no way we can proceed from there. In fact, if someone has crippled an economy for some time. It may not be fixed within a shorter period, but we take a cue from what Mr. Domlevo talked about. If you have a leader who has charisma and persona, in many ways he's going to inspire a certain attitude. And that can in many respects bring the people together for them to begin to employ the tools that are required to rebuild the state. If you have a leader who doesn't have the charisma and would come to complain about yesterday, instead of doing the work of fixing the economy and putting us on the right traction, it will become a blame game for the first year, the second year to be a blame game, the third year it will look like I may need a second term before I can turn things around. So it is important you have a leader who is going to influence the system with his charisma and persona, and even effect change based on his programmatic agenda. And it comes about also by allowing, if the audience would permit us, okay, it would also happen when in fact the laws, the rule of law, as Mr. Domlevo talked about, are respected. We allow the laws of the state, we are constitutional democracy, to function according to spirit and letter, so that if institutions and departments are working, they are also not only working because of the constitution, but the agent of change, who is the president, is allowing these institutions to breathe and to work with no encumbrances and interference. And that if his or her own minister or appointee is misbehaving, he would allow the laws to deal with him or her. And more so, would allow the sun to shine on the corruption. And when that happens, it will deal with putrefaction, it will deal with decomposition, and where we have turned bad, we'll begin to reverse to good and go to excellent. Because today, we are in the state of corruption, which means bad, which means decomposition. And for us to return back to good, very good and excellent, you need a leader who would assume office, is it 6 January, right? Or 7 January, who would assume office, rolling his sleeves to ensure that he's going to mobilize the forces of change. And that is the human resource. He may find them, if it is NDC or MPP that wins the election, he may find them within the NDC and the MPP or outside of same, and would allow such individuals who have the acumen, who have the experience and the commitment to build Ghana, to work with him to do so. If it's going to be the order of the day, where party leaders, party kingmakers, if you like, or kitchen cabinets, so to speak, will begin to throw people in there for the president to work with, I'm sorry, we'll still be on ground zero as we are today.
You want to add? Prof, should I want to be specific? But I want to be specific because you all talked about a leader. Now, do we have among them somebody to fight corruption?
I think history should inform us. The reason why we study history is that probably want to make learn from it so that don't repeat mistakes. I'm sure for the past, let me say 16 years, we can compare the records. One is the posture of the party towards corruption. What has been done. In the olden days, when somebody said that my intention is to make $1 million out of before I leave office, what happened to that person? In the current one, when somebody, maybe millions of cedis and some dollars were found under somebody's bed, what happens? I'm sure the internet does not lie. So go to the internet, Google corruption cases for the past 16 years. Compare them. what was said and what was done. And that should inform you who is willing to fight corruption and who is not willing to fight corruption. I'm sure the internet is there. By God's grace, we have all Android phones or iPhones. We can Google, and history should inform us who is corrupt, who is willing to fight corruption, and who is not willing to fight it. Are we together? Yes. And I'm sure when you go to the internet will tell you the truth. Probably when I say vote for A, vote for B, you think probably I have interest in this person. But the internet does not lie. Interesting, we have a very vibrant media who puts everything on the internet. So I'm giving you an assignment for the past 16 years. Google it and then compare the records. Who did what? Who said what? And what was done? Are we together? So that should inform us. And then look at what the wanton dissipation of our resources. If you are happy with that, for this to continue. For me, honestly, I think we've moved from bad to worse. And the impunity and the arrogance with which this is being displayed is the most annoying aspect. It's not just the corruption. Now it is done with impunity, with arrogance. And it's as if I've done it, nothing will happen to me. All right? And that is where we are. So once we get to that extent, then everyone thinks that I can do it and nothing will happen to me. And that's where we are now. So as I said, the internet is available. We are lucky to have the internet available. Please, I'm giving you an assignment. Do a comparative study. Google the corruption cases in the last 16 years. Look at the number. I'm not by any way seeking equalization. No. Are we together? I'm not asking you to equalize. But look at the volume or the magnitude of corruption that has engulfed our nation in the past 16 years. And look at who had made an attempt to solve the issue and who. And as it's all, Mr. Demoliver said, it's all about the leadership. It's about the zeal of the person. Now, we heard Auditor General, the current one, saying, singing Angwanoma, Membre Swan Nameko. We heard him. This was somebody who was appointed by the current government. An office is instituted by them. They've appointed two OSP since the office was instituted. What has happened to them? The first one left and ended with a tag, Mother Serpent of Corruption. I'm just quoting what he said. The next one has turned to a musician singing Angwanuma because there's nothing to be done. Once you fight corruption, corruption is fighting back. So the institution was created just for beautification. It exists by name, but not by function. And that's how I say it. Are we together? So sit down, make informed decision. Google. There's so much information on it. I'm sure that's why I deliberately went on, cropped a lot of the pages so that you look at it. So it doesn't become a hearsay. Are we together? And I was very particular about the website I visited, credible ones, which we know. So please go there and let us inform you. That's my take on this. Okay.
Very soon we'll be engaging you, but Prof, I know how vocal you are. I know how you have been tagged, vilified, carrying Jesus Christ in academia. So perhaps help me, because they are still being diplomatic. Who can we say will be a good leader to fight corruption from 2025 among the candidates?
No, but you see, you just look at the corruption perception index during the past administration and compare to the corruption perception index now. Okay, it should give you an idea. But of course, to be fair, you have, so the records are there. I'm trying to compare John Mahama's records in the fight against corruption as shown by the CPI and then President Akufo-Addo's record. And we are told that John Mahama's worst in the fight against corruption, as far as CPI is concerned, is Akufo-Addo's best. And the records are there. But you would now have to be contending with, you are now contending me, asking me to compare Mahama with, if you like, Bawumia. Okay, and somebody will say that, well, but Bawumia wasn't in the, or hasn't been in a driving seat. I've taken issues with him that I know the functions and role of the vice president. And so when he was so much all over Vice President Emisata, posing 170 questions and insisting that he answers those questions, I thought it was unfair. Now, when it got to his turn and people were also taking him on, he's now saying that, well, he's only being the mate and all that. I thought that was not a show of so much principle in politics. I was expecting him to say that, first of all, I want to apologize to the family of the late Emisata, because when I became a vice president, I realized that there wasn't much that I could do as a vice president, and I didn't know. Kufuor has done that before. Kufuor appointed 88 ministers, but before then he had accused and criticized Jerry Rawlings for appointing 82 ministers. When he was asked, he apologized that when he was in opposition, he saw things different. So the point I'm trying to make is that somebody can comfortably say that it will be an unfair comparison because the man hasn't been a president before. Okay, he's always been a mate and all that. And so comparing him, what he can do to what has already been done by President Mahama, I mean, you may not be able to get it accurate. Okay, but so I think comparing who can do it now, in my view, is hypothetical. We want who has done it, or who has done it should be our point of analysis and order. So if you compare and at the end of the day you say Mahama will be the best in the fight against corruption and he doesn't do it, or you say Bawumia will be the best in the fight against corruption and he doesn't do it, what would you have achieved? Okay, at the end of the day, the fight against corruption should go beyond mere speculation and mere thinking, wishful thinking about what we think people can do. It should move from that level of analysis to what has been done. And so, as I said earlier, I'm interested in analyzing or looking at who will take over the mantle of leadership next year and what the person will do. Okay, and I think that is what we should be interested in, rather than looking for who we think will be able to do. In the first place, if you are asking me to compare Akufo-Addo, if Akufo-Addo were to be running again, okay, and then Mahama is also coming again, and you're asking me to compare who I think will be able to fight corruption, then I can easily make reference to the CPI indices, okay, and then I'll be able to tell that, judging by this record, then I can say that then Mahama that did has done far better than Akufo-Addo in the fight against corruption. But this time it's Mahama and somebody who is not a president, and I don't want to fall for that propaganda by all of a sudden assuming that a vice president is of the same status as a president. I think it should not be fair. Bawumia did that. I took him on, and I'm still insisting that to earn the respect of some of us and many Ghanaians, you should quickly, it's not too late, come out to publicly apologize to the family of the late Emisata for the way and manner he was treated, even though we all knew that as a vice president, See, you can only perform or function properly if you get a president who wants you to shine and excel. But if you get a political king Kong or a president who wants to take over everything, okay, it will be difficult. Okay, it will be difficult for you to be seen. You get a president who would want to do everything all by himself. Okay, I was thinking that before the 2024 elections, I was thinking, and I'd heard among the top echelons of political power that there was a certain agreement that the sitting president was going to take a certain backstage and to allow his vice, who was to take over from him, to run the show so that he'll be able to do a lot of things and be seen and all that. I heard that discussion, but I told them that looking at the posturing of the president when he sits, he's talking, he sits like this, and see, the man loves power. And so it is not going to be possible for him to ask Bawumia to govern for 2 years. No, it wasn't good. So you see, he's done everything up to the end. And so such a person, okay, I think that it's just that some way, somehow, he still likes Bawumia. But otherwise, he was not going to even allow you to do a lot to be seen. Okay, so let's see it from that perspective and move away from, because it's going to be a headline if I say that this man will do it better than. But I'm not interested in campaigning for anybody. I'm interested in speaking my mind as to what I think is good for Mother Ghana. Okay, if it helps, if it finds favor with party A, so be it. If it finds favor with party B, so be it. But I don't want to give a headline so that the media is here. They'll go and say that. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that.
All right, so now I'll come to you, the audience. If you have any question directed to any of the guests here, the panel, you can do so. So, do we have any question for them? Any question you want to ask who? You raise your hands. Yes. Dr. Amachi, academia asking questions. That's deep. Doc.
Mine is not a question. Let me greet my colleagues there and then the ladies and gentlemen. I want to take a look at this issue that you raised because it's crucial. But my understanding is that countries that have done well in recent times, many of them come from Southeast Asia. They supervise over what has been captured as effective states, hard states. Interestingly, the issue of corruption was sort of subsumed within this sort of state. So that is where I'm interested in. Engaging in public discourses, I've asked the question between Dr. Bawumia and President Mahama. Which one of them has the capacity to deliver an effective state? And then I look at the features that those leaders in Southeast Asia sort of gave us. And then I find one major problem with Dr. Bawumia. There's this issue. A house supposed to belong to a gentleman who is closely related to Honorable Kennedy Japan. And that the house or the plot was also purported to belong to some other people related to Dr. Bawumia. This issue came up. And that the case was in court, and yet they proceeded to demolish it. So I told myself, what exactly are the facts of the case? What sort of authority did they use to go and demolish the property that was on it because I heard that the court had not finally come out with their position. I didn't have the full facts and I didn't get it. Did they usurp some sort of authority from the office of the vice president? Did it happen that way? If it did, then I will have problem. The type of leadership Dr. Bawumia will be giving Ghanaians. And then two, MPP as a party. A political party is made up of human beings. The party belongs to some people, those who have financed the actions and inactions, the developments in the party from its very inception to date. What role has Dr. Bawumia played? Interest drives politics. And these people who have been financing the party are not Father Christmas. Is that the reason why President Kufuor and Adanko Kufuor could not deliver hard state? The idea of hard state is a state that is principled, a state that defines the national interest in very simple terms and insists on it. Any other interest, if it is parochial, simply gets thrown away. And we have examples, all of them coming from Southeast Asia. That is the state that fights corruption head on. Then I asked, can Dr. Bawumia deliver a hard state in Ghana? I said no on two grounds. The first one is that hypothetical case. Hypothetical because I don't have the full facts, but it doesn't augur well for the image of a vice president whose office appeared to have been usurped by some people, and then they use it to act in the public realm in a manner that leaves a lot to be desired. And then two, he has not been in the party long enough. He has not contributed much. So I asked myself, these strong men in the party, many of them are business people, politicians who at the same time are businessmen. Problematic. They love money. Is he going to be strong enough to resist any of these people in their business interest? My response is no. Why? Because the party belongs to those people. So I tell myself, he will not deliver the type of state that Ghana needs at this material moment in time. And then I examine President Mahama. In the NDC today, I like to believe that the big men in the party, and my definition of big men has to do with those who have been in the party for a while, spent money, and also sort of participated in the actions and inactions that have brought the NDC to date. I think everybody there who meets this particular sort of big men tag is his contemporaries. And if that is the case, I expect him to be able to look at General Mosquito in the face and tell him that, General, you import rice, but Ghana is going to stop the importation of rice. I expect him to be able to do that. I've done this analysis on air before. I'm not playing to any gallery. I'm not campaigning for anybody. I don't expect Dr. Bawumia to deliver a hard state. I expect over there, it will sort of sound like the challenge Mr. Domlevo has got with this potential thing. I pick it. Over here, it is a potential. It is a potential. Has he got something that in the literature has been captured as one common feature that you find with all the developmental leaders, those who turn the fortunes of their countries around? An overriding commitment to the public good. Has he got it? Has President Mahama got it? I don't know. Those leaders, and a typical example, we all know, President Lee Kuan Yew, He will look at you in the face and tell you that you can't do this. And he will not allow you to do it. So that is it with the issue with who can fight corruption and who cannot fight corruption. Thank you.
That's a deep contribution. Any question? Okay, you want to ask?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me commend all our speakers for such an insightful presentation. My question is specifically, okay, my name is Kofi Tuhofo from Time FM Kumasi. And if you look at the fight against corruption, as I said earlier, the government has deployed several measures or in the name of reducing it to the minimum. And it has been like taking a passport picture whilst wearing a nice shoe. And also applying a very nice perfume to take a picture. After that, if you smell it, you won't perceive the scent of the perfume, meaning the outcome has been zero. And Mr. Domlovo said there's hope. Is there anything that he's seen that we haven't seen that gives him the hope or the encouragement? Thank you very much.
My name is Lukman Nu. My question is, we've been hearing that, but we have not seen it, that a president cannot be prosecuted until after 10 years or a certain number of years before a president could be prosecuted or even jailed. I want to know from this honorable panel that whether this is true. So.
My name is Ogo David. Please, I wanted to find out from Mr. Domilevu that do we have any law of discretion that if a public officer uses his or her own discretion to take a decision that affects the country negatively, do you have any law that punish that particular fellow? Thank you, sir.
Two more questions, then we are done. Okay. Please come forward, yeah? Please come forward. Come forward. Because of the time, we want to make it quickly. Okay, so you can be here. Okay, I'll make do with 3, and then we can go back to the panels. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Hannah Dai. Okay. Okay. From Insura FM. I want to find out, throughout the conversation, it's been like we all want corruption, or we want a Ghana free of corruption. But Penana Janswe's question and then the answers coming so far, it's like we don't have, okay, I can't say we don't have, but like you can't really get a candidate you can vouch for saying that as for this person I trust. I personally think if it is possible, the media can replace some of these institutions if possible. The reason being that even the social issues that people have lost trust in our court system that could be handled are being solved in some media houses, and people sometimes feel they got justice and they are okay. So is it okay for the media to take charge and then scrap off these corruption issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Clara Thasei, and I will take this opportunity to thank the panel. They've given us a good insight, and I believe it will be part and parcel of us. My first question is, when it comes to, do we have penalties for misappropriation of funds? And again, the youth, should you be scared to be close to politics? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Master Bandele Peter. This morning when I wake up and I saw the flyers that there is going to be a corruption program, I told myself, wow, because this is the second time I'm attending a corruption program. And ask myself, are we always going to organize corruption program, whilst there will be order from the above? Because we'll be meeting, talking about how we can curb corruption, but at the end of the day, it will end order from the above. The question I ask myself is, where are we going as a country? Are we in need of a country free of corruption, free of poverty, free of war? But the question is, what leadership are we producing? I believe that we have former Attorney General. You ask a sensitive question, Auditor General, and I was expecting him to give a straightforward answer. That can we have twice of you? You have been in office. Let's be honest with ourselves. Auditor General, how many people have you produced times 4 of you who have the same ideology of you, who can be with you to fight against these rooted leaders? I'm a youth. Anytime I wake up in the morning, I need to cry. Why? Because I can't see my future. We have professors, we have lecturers, intellectuals, but at the end of the day, we have BECE, first degree member of parliament, minister, managing the affairs of intellectuals who call themselves professors. Now, someone with first degree is determining the salary of a professor. How do we want this country to move on? I want my former Attorney General, my last question is to him is that, Mr. Former Attorney General, do you, Auditor General, boss, do you think that this generation need the constitution we have now? Because I was informed that this constitution was written to protect the coup leaders. Our generation, I think we need to assess this constitution we have now, make amendment, make changes so that we move on as a country. Thank you.
Well, I'll give it to Professor Brinya for his contribution, then we come to the panel. Prof.
I actually have a question, not a contribution. So let me first of all say good job to the insightful presentation. But as we talk about corruption, the book of Yeboah Esiama comes to mind, where he argues that the corruption that we experience is culturally inbred. The culture itself provides corruption. He quotes some of the adage, like you don't go to the king's house empty-handed, and all the others. Therefore, leaders go into office, just as Mr. Ndolovo said, and you expect them to exert that leadership that will bring the change. The system turns round to change them. And then we get this blame. Now my question is, how feasible is this fight? If indeed the culture, as alluded by Yeboah Esiama, is the problem. Thank you.
So let me start with Mr. Dumeluvo. I'm sure the questions were being bombarded to your end, so help us first and then we'll move on to the other panels.
Yeah, thank you very much for your questions. I'll try. I hope the lecturers here will be marking if I pass or I fail. Somebody talked about prosecuting a president after 10 years. It's not correct. The Constitution provides that if you'd rather don't prosecute him within 3 years from leaving office, then you can't hold him accountable anymore. So all the sins of His Excellency John Mahama, for instance, are forgiven. Because once after 3 years of leaving office, you don't hold him accountable for his civil offenses or criminal offenses, the Constitution quashes it. So if you have to jail a president, we must start from January next year. If you have to jail somebody, we must start immediately. Otherwise, 3 years after Nana Addo leaving office, he's a free man. That's what the Constitution said, because it may be difficult if you allow it to continue. When the campaign starts, then now you start prosecuting. So that's why it gives 3 years, and you cannot go anymore. Somebody asked how many of my successors or people I produced. Let me be honest with you. When I was in office as Auditor General, I never went on the field to audit anybody. I never produced any report. I never identified any infractions personally. It is the team which performed that function. And that team is there. That team is there, but dismantled and demotivated. And they are in panic and fear. Because the lawyer who was actually from audit service, prosecuting people or leading the agenda at the court, got himself transferred to Cape Coast to become a district auditor. A lawyer. The accountant or the auditor who did the audit, led the audit, he's now at OT. They dismantle almost all the team. And the accounts have a proverb to say that the tree which seed, Anansi ate and died, Intikuma does not sleep under that tree. So they have seen it. It's not like capacity has not been built. You won't believe it, that when we were going to court, it was lawyers from audit service, not outside. A few times I engaged lawyer Sorry and etc. when the case was high profile. But usually it was audit service staff who were doing some of these things. So as for the capacity, it is there. I said it earlier on. Maybe you people were not there, so I may repeat it. I said, as for the type of Domelevo you are talking about, there are several in Ghana. It is only fear which is keeping them away. A lot of people know more than I do, but selfish interests. They don't want what happened to me to happen to them. That is the problem. So once people are ready to face it, it's not easy. In my case, I knew the consequences of being an auditor general. And I was ready for it before coming. Because of diplomacy, I can't mention some country's name. But I was outside the country working. And there was a corruption issue. And I was then acting as a country manager. So I met the director for anti-corruption. And after listening to his case, I told him, young man, put your country first. Put your country first, not your selfish interests. As you drive home, see the number of people whose life depend upon you. Put them first. The gentleman, after the meeting, when he reached the door, turned and said, sir, thank you very much. I'll put my country first. And I said, God bless you. Less than 30 minutes, he was adopted at his gate, our gate. 3 gunmen picked him. So I was informed. I called the UN security. I said, can you help this man for us? About 2 hours later, they called me and said, we found him. They've killed him. That was just 3 months before I was appointed Auditor General. So I was ready and I informed my family that I'm going to die. Because I am going to call a spade by its name. And I know the consequence is that Minche, they will eliminate me. So it's by God's grace that I'm still alive. So professionals know what to do. In fact, I believe there are several accountants, several investigators who could do more than I have done. But fear and selfish interests, and at times alliances that they have formed. Because when you come to office too, you must be very careful. The first thing they do is to entice you. And if you taste that honey and it is sweet in your mouth, you are done. Fortunately for me, I've been in public service before, so I know all these tricks. So when the offers came, I just laughed. I remember on one occasion, I asked, you want me to join the looting brigade? And that killed the story. I think my colleagues should also answer the rest.
Well, I think there is enough lessons to be drawn from what Mr. Domlevo has just said, and if he's listening, the one who has the question is listening, I mean, he should be okay. Yes, you wouldn't have a lot of people who are strong-willed, and many people would prefer to mind their business. And if we want to go on that tangent in this country, then we would remain where we are. And so as he just came to ask the question, it's a challenge to him that he must also speak up. Okay, otherwise, you leave it to a certain few people to be doing this. And look, once upon a time, members of parliament decided to construct a new chamber. The whole of Ghana, we spoke against it. Okay? And they have garbaged that idea even up till now. So, if we all will speak up and will not be minding our business, I mean, what can a human being do to you? Maybe, I don't know, but some of us, we feel that death is the easiest punishment that we can give. To me, if you die, so what? Nobody would live forever. And so you should proceed from the level or from the angle that the worst that can happen to you is to die. But if you die, so what? You won't have the opportunity to be worried. I mean, as I'm speaking here, it looks like I am divided, because I am at the same time trying to issue a statement calling on the Electoral Commission to stop what it is doing, trying to restrict media houses. Okay, I mean, this is not what we this is not what we are used to. And if we've been talking about transparency, then for the first time we are saying we are going to be okay. And I am trying to issue that statement forcefully. Jean Mensah is like a sister to me. She trained me. I worked with her for 14 years. And I left, and then she was also appointed the chair of the Electoral Commission. So we've had a working relationship. But if it's about saying things as it is, there is no brother-sister matter. Okay, I'm finishing the statement. Afterwards, I'll tell her that, please resign your decision and give myself up to evening. If she doesn't, we'll speak our mind forcefully. Okay, so, and this one, I don't know how we'll train you to do that beyond telling you to do it. Nobody will do anything to you. The worst they can do is to kill you. But even if you die like that, you go to heaven. So don't worry.
Okay, so I think our sister talked about the media houses and whether they can take on the corruption fight. Honestly, this is my first time of meeting my brother here, but I've been listening to him about how objective he's been in Israel FM when it comes to, let's give it to him. He's one of the few people in Kumasi that I've been listening to. He's been persistent in calling a spade a spade. So I've been listening to him. He doesn't know that I've been listening to him. But when we look at the media space, unfortunately, the politicians have taken over. And we have a lot of the media houses are political. So if you ask them to lead the fight, of course, there are a few, not neutral, I don't want to use the neutral, who actually go able to handle the issue. But a lot of the stations are political. And for that reason, when it favors them, they will talk. When it doesn't, they will not talk about it. I hope you are aware. Yes, I think your multimedia is doing well largely. You receive blows from all sides whenever it doesn't favor the other. But a lot of stations are not like that. In fact, I will not shy away saying that some of the media houses themselves are corrupt because they are used by these politicians to promote their agenda. Are we together? Okay. So I think you can go on and do what you do best. But again, taking the fight, you don't have the legal power, prosecutorial power, to go and prosecute anyone. So the best thing is, you want to do, that was your question. Yes, you don't have the powers to do that. That's what Prof said. If we had a way of, for example, decoupling the ages of it from the justice, then we can do a lot of things. I think there's something interesting concept that came up in managing our oil. For example, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, for example, the PIAC. If we had given PIAC prosecutorial powers, for example, then we can prosecute some of these guys who are mismanaging our oil resources. But because they know what they are doing, all those powers are given to an appointee of the president. So how do we prosecute them? So for the talking, now the issue is that you can talk, but we have our way. Based on our laws, that's how we see the things. The things are. The media, all of us can make all the laws, but the one that must actually prosecute is that I will not. Because the person is an appointee of the president. But I'm sure if we decouple the AG's office and we have an AG, like our former Auditor General, then I'm sure people will stop misbehaving. But until that happens, we need, as I'm going to say, the person who fought against the Constitution in the 90s is now enjoying the Constitution to the max. He sees nothing wrong with the Constitution now. That's the current president. And I'm sure it was President Mills who tried to do the revision. And what happened? Some of our own folks took the issue to the press at the call that he cannot initiate all those things. Since then, the youth have been quiet. And as he's saying, I always challenge the youth, we should rise up and make sure there is a review of this Constitution because it's not fit for purpose. And if somebody who fought against the Constitution today never thinks of review and it's ending the 8 years, and he sees nothing wrong because that has given him, he's been a lawyer, he's been able to exploit the loopholes to push the nation to its most terrible end. And you, the youth, you are sitting down, you are afraid. In fact, Kenya is living better than you, but they will not tolerate what we are tolerating here. So the youth, don't allow the people who enjoyed single rooms at universities, went on demonstration because they were eating too much chicken. And now you sit here and somebody is joking with your life. And the annoying aspect is seeing youth defending these folks. They will enjoy Ghana. This Galam said that we are talking about, they will be gone. You are about to give birth. You are consuming these heavy metals. And you are defending them. So we need a whole constitutional review. The Constitution as it sits now, from understanding, all powers have been taken away from the citizenry, and whoever wins power controls everything. So you cannot hold them accountable. You can talk. This one has done this, one who prosecute a person. That is the issue. And we saw the OSP, what has become of it? It's also one of those political issues. Nothing will happen. As I continue to say, the first one left, he said left with the mother serpent of corruption. The current one is now a musician singing Ankwanobi. Nothing will happen. So we must stand up and demand review of the Constitution. Unfortunately, I must be frank, whoever takes over in the next 4 years, if there's gross arrogance and sins against the youth, let me put it that way, continues, I'm sorry to say our democracy may collapse within the next 4 years because the youth, we've had enough. And we must not sit down for this to happen. So don't joke, don't leave the country. The only option I see is as an act of cowardice on the part of the youth. That the only way they can have their way is when they see this, they run away from the country, leave the country. You go there and you never feel at home. You will definitely come home. You can't take your mom away, you can't take your dad away, you come back home. And the policies you left behind will still haunt you. You bring few money you want to, some money you want to set up a company, and the corruption will fight you and take the money from you. So rise up and let's demand accountability. And I command the people of the hub who are arrested for standing up. But there's a price to pay for everything. That's the price they paid. And we must not sit down for our future to be treated like this. So please rise up, the youth, and demand a review of the Constitution, because always people were exploited to their advantage. As it sits now, the Constitution stands now, to me, no, it's not meant for us. And I agree with you, it's not good for this generation, it must be reviewed, and it is now.
Yes, some few final statements, then we will go. Brother, I think the chiefs should accept. What is this? Yeah. Okay. So the chiefs will take cola. I mean, if they take cola, they should take cola. Cola cannot be more than even 5 cities. So, well, how much is cola now? In the olden days, now they have updated it. It's a very critical question because immediately we look at our culture, then we are looking at chieftaincy. And you know that when our chiefs are democratically elected, I mean, traditionally, they come to power because they are supposed to be, if you like, people of high repute with outstanding character and individuals who are willing to serve their community. So in many ways, if we are looking at update of how much goes to chiefs when you go to visit them, we are expecting that same chiefs would have advanced also in contemporary times in terms of holding higher their morality, holding higher the ethics of their office, because they serve as a major check to the political parties. When the NDC and the MPP are clashing in that community, if you have a chief who has lived above reproach and has not been bought by MPP or NDC, he can call them to order informally. And so, even for chieftaincy to become relevant, when we talk about the question of corruption emanating from our custom, chiefs must sit up and begin to say, no, that's not the case. Because we know we are also agents of development. And we do not want any politician to visit us and buy our votes and say that, look, come and say something for me. And I mean, chiefs are now wearing party t-shirts informally and campaigning for political parties because they've been bought. It's a critical question, but I think that the way out is simple. The way out must be tied into sanitizing our society, saying that corruption in any form, whether it's in the church or the mosque or the shrine or ahimfie, every form of corruption must be dealt with, and dealt with in such a way that we don't lose the essentials, the useful and the relevant aspects of our culture and custom. But as we move along, we also must look at the media question. That's the last thing I want to touch. What powers is the media looking for again, except for emphasis on press freedom? Politicians go out to campaign and make promises. The media takes note and fact check. And when they come to power, the media has the responsibility to ensure, by reminding them and critiquing them. Today, we are fortunate that private media and more so citizenship or individuals who are on social media are now using podcasting and other agencies to turn things around. You can look at the elections that took place in America today. The mainstream media like the Fox and CNN are ideologically biased in many respects. But even in that domain, the question we need to ask is that what kind of persons are in the media houses? Every media house would have its own ethics and what governs their, if you like, editorial protocol, what they are required to do. So that if ideologically they tilt to the left or right or center, whatever, if they are experts enough, they will speak to issues. It will not be based on sentiments and emotions and the noise, as Mr. Domolovo talked about, that we hear in our ears every morning, casting insinuation and insult at each other. The fourth estate of the realm has enormous power to do many things. But whilst doing that, we would rather ask for more press freedom. And as we change over time with the social media, you are even gaining more traction. And so I dare the media to wake up and join forces with crusaders against corruption and with all manner of institutions and agencies that are interested in good governance. And when we do that, we can effect the changes across board. Thank you very much.
Mr. Domelevo, your final comment on discretion.
Yes, before the question on discretion, I would like to join Prof. Jampo to say that I equally condemn this restriction on the media. I think the media that are being accredited to cover the election should all boycott it so that we don't see anything. Either we go together or we all don't go. I think you should come together as a media and tell Electoral Commission, if you allow us in, then nobody's coming in. I don't think they have that right to deny Ghanaians information or access to information. So that one, Prof, I join you in condemning it in no uncertain terms. Thank you. Now, on discretion, yes, the truth of the matter is this. In using public funds, you can exercise discretion, but it must be within the ambit of the law. From the Constitution first. Because under Article 178, if that expenditure is not approved by Parliament or allowed by any law, then you can't exercise discretion. It must be a matter of Parliament approval or a law authorizing it. Then we have a whole gamut of laws, including the Public Financial Management Act, the Procurement Act, and the rest. So the exercise of the discretion must be within the limits of the law. That is why the Constitution under Article 1877B mandate the Auditor General that in the performance of his functions, if he comes across any item of expenditure which is contrary to law, he may disallow it and surcharge. You may exercise your discretion, but you must make sure the discretion is within the ambit of the law. I hope I've answered you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's keep clapping. Let's keep clapping. And let's keep clapping for our distinguished panel members who have really done well. Please, let's do it better for them. Let's do it better for them. Now we've closed. But first, let me acknowledge the presence of certain key people. I mean, when you come to KNUST, all these things happen in terms of politics, science, economy, governance. We have people who are training them. Unfortunately, when they get the opportunity, it becomes a problem. But please, let's acknowledge the presence of Professor Brinya. Prof, thank you. I'm sure our big man who spoke, he's been serving on radio even when we were young, and then we are privileged to also be serving with him. Let's acknowledge the presence of Dr. Amachi. Thank you very much. We thank you. We also want to thank our panel. Thank you very much, Professor Ramsford Jampo. Thank you. God bless you for speaking truth to power. Dr. Lord J.J. Goant, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And Mr. Daniel Yadomelevo, whom we are praying for many Domelevos. Thank you. My senior, Professor Samuel Dijemfi, God bless you. Thank you very much. And we can clap for ourselves. Thank you for being present. And then most importantly, the chief crusader himself, Mr. Emmanuel Wilson Jr. Please get up and let's appreciate you. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. And to our media colleagues, thank you. God bless you. I know that you don't have time, but we've taken almost your time. Thank you for having that patience. And when we are done, you can quickly get them and get your bites because they are hard to find. So please take advantage and ask all the questions. So we want to thank God for this opportunity. We want to thank everybody, and we thank you for being with us. Before we go, please, let's invite Reverend Inshra Edujamfi to give us the closing prayer. Rev, please. Oh, please, let's do the clapping well. Yeah. We want to also thank the Oforukrum constituency, the executives, the reps. I know we have other political parties here, NDC, MPP. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. We appreciate you. Rev.
Please, if we can we please stand on our feet? Let's close our eyes. Father, we thank you for our lives. We thank you for our nation, Ghana. We give you praise and honor for the peace that we have enjoyed in this year 2024. Father, we thank you for our panel and all the great wisdom that you have given them. We thank you for everyone here. We pray, oh God, and we ask that you will come to our aid as a nation. For your word says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, I will heal their land. We pray that you will heal the land of Ghana. We call for a peaceful election. We ask that Ghana will rise again in Jesus' name. As we go home, we ask for your grace to sustain us and take us to our respective places. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. God bless you. So the media can interact with our able panels, and then if you have any question, you can do that. So
let's take a group picture, please. The media, if we can take a group picture.
Yes. So we can stand here. Where's the camera?